Another false binary. What if I just want to spectate, but I'm nonetheless interested? I'm engaged, but more so in spectator mode. What then? Why is everything got to be a false binary, especially with these door memes and stuff? So for those of you who have the audacity to not watch and who are simply listening, it says, welcome to 2025, choose a door. One door says, disengage and hope it turns out okay for you. You know, as if the engagement is in some way connected to what actually goes on to happen. Vast majority of us, we can toil all we want. We can knocky knock. It's not going to have any effect on the big stuff. Fight for what's right. Well, yes, secure your sanctimony by hook or by crook. Yeah, that's what you're actually doing there when you say fight for what's right. Fight, we gotta fight. We gotta fight non-literally. But when, when Fraudster says fight, he doesn't have any wiggle room for non-literally, then it's literal. But when we say fight, we have wiggle room for non-literally. Anyway, yeah, I'm displeased with the state of things. It's 2025. It's the current year, and I'm displeased with the binary. It's all just binary. You can just spectate and not disengage, but nonetheless, you don't sense yourself a participant. Because even when you try, it's like others don't sense you a participant. Others just see a spectator, and therefore they don't invite you into the club. But maybe that's okay, because the clubs, what is it? I thought I had the other one up. There we go. That's what the club's made of. That's one of the clubs, what it's made of. But hang on, what else do I have here? I have some other stuff here.
How to post on Blue Sky. Breaking. Hegseth confirmed. Those bastards. Time for a mighty clapback to fascism again. See image because my politics is formed around the bromide that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I hardly even realize it. Which is why I'll chest beat about reposting this and... No avail 13 days ago.
It's when I switched
and
the
so
image,
it is that random digit 2025 is suddenly scary looking.
I wasn't ready.
Only in Will.
No, what happened was this was supposed to be the default image. So I wanted to change the image. The post makes much sense. I just wanted to kind of, this is a conspiratorial second one. Russia, Trumpy Russia is a conspiratorial second one because I'm negging Blue Sky. But then I left it set to this. No, this is the actual image where the post makes sense. Because they do so much of this on Blue Sky because they're all sad, And they gave Lady Liberty nail polish. I think Dems came up with these. Lady Liberty is crying. Dems who, in fairness, he is an abuser. Hegseth is an abuser. So yeah, fair enough. Post this if you insist on posting something. But
Will.
No.
4.
No.
No avail. Videos.
Why is this so hard to maneuver? God.
You folks won't appreciate this post because I'd wager none of you
Let's
even
do
know
it
what
again now that you've seen.
Breaking. Hegseth confirmed. Those bastards.
Those bastards.
Time for a mighty clapback to fascism again.
Yeah.
See image because my politics is formed around the bromide that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I hardly even realize it. Which is why I'll chest beat about reposting this and other spicy imagery on the daily while any of these pics are in power.
Dunking on the fascists.
This will amuse me greatly, for I cannot just press rec and rant cathartically the way some can.
The fascists made Lady Liberty cry, and that's how you dunk on the fascists. You point out that they've made Lady Liberty cry.
I also secretly look down on hard-fought / higher levels of understanding. The former likely explains it.
Yeah, how do you not if you're amused by posting this kind of shit every day?
Disclaimer, I recognize that
So when I do parentheses, that means it's me.
Not all content on Blue Sky is quite as low as the bit lets on. There's technically some good stuff on Blue Sky.
Asterisks, because I don't know the percentages.
Sky.
Probably less than 10%.
But here in mid-January,
probably less than 10%.
I can safely say I regret plugging it in one of the election salt videos. You folks won't appreciate this post.
This part is most true. You folks just can't appreciate anything.
I'd wager none of you even know what it's like to lurk Blue Sky for extended periods.
You guys don't do what I tell you to do. When I plug something, you don't go there.
Periods. Another tunage to land post by me.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh well, more to come.
Definitely more to
Show less.
But, it was...
No avail 13 days ago.
This segment fell apart because I just...
No avail 13 days ago.
Shut up. I just forgot that I left it set to this. But because it was, incidental and, things happened. Things happened that I didn't expect. So you're going to see me kind of taken aback for a second. So I'll include it on those grounds. Others would just leave it out. But I like to keep myself abused. Well, see now this one, a man came up with. It's self-evident. Man came up with this one. Resigned, probably callous. Bud figured he'd, reanimate Lady Liberty in Bud's image. Because man was at least callous. So you just watch and chill, and you're not surprised, you're not taken aback. You just anticipate it, because it's humanity. In one or another form, it's humanity. Yes, this is a strand of humanity that's had markets and democracy for several decades and, centuries. It was a great democracy. If we can judge the great and not so great democracies for decades, maybe centuries, maybe. U.S. was a great democracy. Will U.S. manage to continue being a great democracy, relatively speaking? Well, if you're anything like Bud, and you're reanimating Lady Liberty in your image, even if the answer is no, it's like, I'm going to be resigned about it because I'm male and callous. But maybe there's such a thing as too callous. But up next, let's see me share my views on people trying to resurrect the stupid thing known as Marxism.
Germany, just after the French Revolution, Napoleon, and the spread of new liberal ideas about freedoms and rights. New sciences, industries, and factories were spreading across Europe.
It's thus far a mostly flattering gloss. It's a flattering gloss. Like, you gotta know, man. You gotta know what this guy thought. No, I don't think anyone needs to know what this guy thought to make sense of stuff nowadays. But it's like, oh, you gotta know what this guy thought to make sense of today. Fuck you.
Europe. It was a time of unprecedented dynamic change.
Maybe he wasn't a dull fellow, but he couldn't think clearly.
Is key to Marx.
Because he did Hegel. He couldn't get Hegel is stupid.
Change. There was no better person.
Change?
Change
Yeah,
is key to Marx.
It's all about change.
To understand change, there was no better person to turn to than Georg Hegel. Hegel had argued that all previous moments in history were the unfolding of ideas, concepts, truth, dialectically, moving us, propelling us forward.
Okay, I'm going to have to simplify a bit here, but for Hegel...
Are you a dull fellow then and now? I can't quite figure it out. Are you a dull fellow? Are you one of these people who've just read themselves stupid? I fear you are. Shop talks about it. The people who've read themselves stupid, they always turn to books, the book philosopher, the bookish one. Because they got nothing. They've got no self-mental ingenuity, self-mental drive to turn to their books and read themselves stupid. I think they could do a flattering gloss of the stupid. No, it really doesn't fucking matter. Whether there's democracy at the workplace, all these issues facing us, none of it matters whether the LTV is true or not, whether we end up with democracy at the workplace. No, none of that shit is determinative to whether or not, this doesn't go AWOL. Nothing is important for today, then. And it's a stupid, optimistic, there'll be no need for currency, there'll be no need for states. We're gonna have democracy at the workplace for long enough, by hook or by crook. And then, we'll be angelic. It's stupid. And it's, wormy as well in terms of the opposite of how Rawls put it. Rawls just, said, hierarchically, this matters more than this. But here, it's like, hierarchically, what, political rights ought to be more important than, your economic ambitions. Political rights ought to be more, and, multi-party competition within a nation state. Yeah, that ought to be, that ought to prevail over your stupid, obsessive economism crap and class warfare crap. But very wormy, so it's no wonder it ended up being the way it ended up.
Truth was...
The states that adopted it as the official philosophy. You're not going to say any of that shit, are you? Because he was wormy and little civil liberties obfuscator. Marx as civil liberties obfuscator. What is the normative status of civil liberties in Marxism? It's lower than in liberalism. Liberalism doesn't have these, determined, we're going somewhere, we must be going somewhere because I'm stupid enough to read Hegel and read myself stupid. So we must be going somewhere. It's like, no, liberalism doesn't say going somewhere. Liberalism just says, let's deontically, try to do this liberties thing for individuals. Deontically, let's try to do that. But it's going to be messy. It's going to be messy, but we're going to aspire to it. I don't think Marxism aspires to deontically protect individual liberties because it's obsessed with stupid shit like workplace democracy. It's that I have to show up. It's not who makes the calls. It's that I have to fucking show up at specific time. What am I going to do? Vote myself out of having to show up at a specific time? What then? Who does the thing that I'm supposed to do? Oh, right. Some problems are interminable.
Idealism,
but no.
Images and words and concepts that led slowly across history
to
a greater understanding of the world and the universe.
You've just read yourself stupid, fella.
More freedom.
The source of all of this, ultimately for Hegel, was God. Now, Hegel was still alive when Marx was young, but to young radical admirers, Hegel had become a dull, conservative, reactionary figure. He believed in progress.
Sorry, cold watch, okay. I mean, I love it. You couldn't have said it better.
In rights, in freedom of a kind, but he also believed in order, in monarchy, and in religion. To a younger generation, these were all oppressive forces. A loose group of young intellectuals called the Young Hegelians emerged, who were influenced by Hegel, but sought to go further than their old master. They were much more republican, liberal, and democratic.
Okay.
Over time, they mostly got more...
Maybe I'm unfair. Maybe you're gonna do everything you need to do in this video. I'm sorry. It's just cold watch very early on. Very flattering at the outset. You gotta know him.
Intellect, one contemporary.
In Marx's world,
He was reportedly...
I like the ambience. Two types of people. The types who will think that you've done something nearly as bad as assaulting someone by, stepping over this fence. And then the people who maybe ridicule that and try to debunk that. You should ridicule it, but not try to debunk it.
live in Marx's world.
No.
They would be sublimely proof against any danger from water. What he's saying is that gravity is not just an idea in our heads, that if we change,
it's a nice video visually,
rework in our minds that we can get rid of and then fly and walk on water. Gravity is very real. It's material. It's in the world. It affects us rather than us affecting it.
Yeah, but the relativity stuff, the relativity stuff flatters idealism.
That too. That people moving about, eating, producing, doing things, working.
Antimatter is the closest we can get a glimpse into the will itself. It's antimatter.
Ideas, not the other
Remember
way around.
Antimatter?
Summing up his critique of the young Hegelians, Marx famously wrote, "The philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point is to change it."
The point is for philosophers to become activists. That's the point. I'm an influential person. I'm centuries old influential because I wanted philosophers to be activists.
The Romantics were another influence.
Of course.
They had argued, just a generation or so before Marx, that much about modern life, industry, and politics seemed to separate us from what they saw as kind of
romantic
wholeness.
movement as the
Marx was a
will
romantic in his
entreated.
early years, like many others. Then, no, he wrote bad romantic poetry in his 20s.
We will devour anyone who says the will should not be entreated.
And completeness from them. But a person should be able to develop themselves fully, three-dimensionally.
I agree, but, it's at the end of the day, it's a bunch of nation states competing. Here we are, all these centuries later, and look at the intense competition. There's a lot of people who think they're individualists, but no, at the end of the day, what's most important to them, election 2024 shows that what's most important to them, the ultimate unit is the nation state. But they probably still fancy themselves as individuals. But yeah, it's all about nation states competing, and that's why you can't do this, fulfill everyone and 1,000 idiosyncrasies bloom. Because then, how do we assure the directionality of the nation state? We can't be outperformed by the other ones. Sometimes not even our allies. What even are allies? What even are allies these days? Is this ally? Is this, what even is an ally? No, but yeah, it's all about nation states. That's why individuals can't self-fulfill. And Marxism is no solution to that. Marx would have thought we would have had decades of, internationalism, solidarity under our belt by now, because Marx was stupid.
About, I'm a trader, I love trade, I want so much trade, but it has to be fair. But what he means by fair is that if the U.S. has a surplus, it's fair. If the U.S. has a deficit, it's unfair.
So
the Orange Man,
that's where Trump is getting this $100 billion
it's not Orange
figure
Man
from.
bad.
Except if that's the case,
It's Orange Man myopic and wah.
It's misleading. Because what I just showed you was the trade deficit.
Yeah, so what did he just show?
$387 billion worth of goods to the U.S., while the U.S.
In terms of,
exported
physical
$27
stuff?
billion worth of goods to the U.S., while the U.S. exported $355 billion worth of goods to Canada. The difference between those two numbers, about
Yanks like our consumer goods more.
$2 billion U.S. or about $100 billion.
You either believe in the consumer right or you don't, right?
Canadian.
Sorry, nativist grievance. You either believe in the consumer right or you don't.
Talks about, I'm a trader, I love
we
that.
heard
If
you.
the U.S. has a surplus,
Yeah, he's
it's
myopic.
fair.
He's myopic.
If the U.S. has a deficit,
billion-dollar figure from.
But then when it comes to services,
If that's the case, it's misleading. Because
it's
what
not,
I just showed you
it's not the whole story.
was the trade deficit in goods, physical things. But think of all the other things that Americans sell to Canadians, from financial services, telecommunications, air transport, consulting, hell, even Netflix.
It's very important to look at services as well, because services has been a growing part of trade for.
I don't even know if I can make a joke about the Volk and Netflix. Like, do Volk like Netflix? Or is Netflix too proggy coded for the Volk to like it?
Exactly.
Because like a lot of people like Netflix. So can I make the Volk joke in reference to Netflix?
Any honest accounting of a trade imbalance must take services into account, because that's trade. And when you look at that balance sheet in services,
Our news
the US
is
actually has
so much better, even if it's, kind of quasi-opinion column. CBC is boss. You're boss, bud.
a surplus over Canada.
That's
of about
how you
$32
do
billion
it.
to the
That's
US,
how it's done.
Which doesn't wipe out the deficit in goods, but it certainly pulls the two countries a little closer together.
They tell the fuller story.
Total trade imbalance between Canada and the US is about $40 billion.
But no nation robbed another nation in this equation. It's just what the consumers want.
57 billion Canadian in Canada's favor. But let's set aside the number, because like I said at the start, I don't know if it's clear to anyone where Trump is getting his numbers from, because he hasn't explained it, even when asked. But there is a bigger question here about how Trump appears to be framing the trade imbalance as some sort of subsidy to Canada.
So I think what he's saying implicitly, we're giving more dollars to Canada than they're spending in the U.S. And he thinks that's a subsidy.
he's just saying the very fact that there's a trade deficit shows that we must be subsidizing things in some fashion. And that's not the case.
Right, because when we think of subsidies, we tend to think of handouts, right? Except it's not like the U.S. is just sending Canada $40 billion a year for nothing in return. Like, when I buy a $6 jar of mayonnaise from...
They need to think themselves robbed. They need to think themselves robbed. They live on outrage, so it just doesn't matter. But you're doing a bang-up job, but you just have to understand, it's a pathology, man. They're not going to think it through. They can't. They're constitutionally incapable of thinking it through, because they all got short fuse, especially don't like, outsider types telling them they're wrong. Ooh, they especially have no fuse for the outsider-looking types telling them they're wrong. And I don't hear mean Canadian. But you're doing a bang-up job. But, they're not going to listen. They need the rage.
From Walmart. That's not a subsidy.
They can't channel the rage either.
Mayonnaise. And
it's one thing to need rage. I've needed rage. I know how to channel my rage. MAGAs can't channel their rage. They're too basic.
Americans are simply buying more from Canada than Canadians buy from Americans. And experts
bang up job. This is how you do it.
There's nothing
you don't bow. You don't bend the knee like Joe and Mika.
Good or bad
you
about
kick
a
ass.
surplus or a deficit. The United States has had a trade deficit pretty much since the end of the Second World War. Why is that? Because they're richer than any other country, so they buy more stuff.
And consider this: the U.S. is
Jim buys more stuff. Jim adds to trade deficit.
Pales in comparison to its trade deficit with many other countries. Just look at how much more the U.S. buys.
Anyway, the whole point of this was to give him credit. You're doing a bang-up job, bud. But then, we can't see. And then what's really gonna set you back? Yeah. That's all they need to see. But why? What? Because you guys are doing such a good segment. Aren't it true? Orange. Why? It's all for naught. It's all to no avail when they see this. You know, let them do whatever they want. You know, as long as it's ideological speech, let them do whatever they want. But you're too afraid to see it. You're too afraid of impolite society. Well, all this, as a result, all this is going to fall on deaf ears.
China each year, for example.
Because you're the CBC.
$250 billion.
So Canada only accounts for about 5% of the overall U.S. deficit just in terms of traded goods. It's not even in the top
Can't
5
stand
countries that have a larger surplus.
having Wild West comment section in the news.
Let's go one level deeper with Trump's argument, because what he's actually been trying to get across.
You've lost the crowd when you turn the comments off. And you know, he lost many Trump haters too. To tell you the truth, you kind of lose me. You kind of lose me. Get it together, guys. It's the current year. It's the new current year. Y'all's got to get it together. This shit is the opposite of persuasive. Like it or not, this shit is the opposite. Let them show up and fling turds at each other even. Let them. But don't turn off the comments ever. Never again, CBC. CBC, never again.
And her husband at Fisher's certifications is a Republican senator from Nebraska.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for your work. And thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Tim is so pissed off about it. Excuse her if she's pissed off about it. I don't know if she is, but Tim is so pissed off about it.
Thank you so much.
Let's see that again. Let's see that again.
Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I would have hung you. This had been 70 years ago. I would have hung you, types.
Sure.
I mean, how do you not infer it? How do you not infer it? Yes. You know, you would have kept the bones.
That makes a little bit very good. Thank you so much.
You wouldn't look at her?
You know, they kept the bones. Only in America. You know, there were white supremacists all over the world, but you know, it was really only the ones in America who, you know, after the lynchings. You know, we've all heard San explain it. After the lynchings, they kept the bones.
Her hand?
The skull sometimes. You know? Yeah, that's enough. That's enough for me to make the joke and say it's also probably true. You know, you would have kept the bones, but it's just not 70, 80 years ago. So this is how you get your payback.
Thank you.
Yeah, like Tim is even more pissed off.
That makes a little bit very good. Thank you so much.
You wouldn't look at her? You wouldn't shake her hand? I mean,
he's pissed off.
After what your party's people did last time?
Pissed off throughout.
For Kamala to stand there and abide by tradition and to be respectful and to be dignified and then to be shunned and then for you to be like, oh, I can't even look at you. I can't even look up at you. I'm so disgusted by you. Ugh, fuck you.
Yeah.
Mr. Fisher.
Yeah.
Whatever your fucking name
But
is.
it's like I said, it's these double standards. They can't see their own double standards. It must be that. They can't think, yeah, it's true, we have double standards and that's okay. No. They think they have some kind of righteousness. This is probably the divinity shit again. Divinity makes it okay to have massive double standards.
What Deb Fisher's husband, you pathetic twerp.
Yeah.
These people are just so sickening.
No, but they have God's grace. You forget, that's not going to work on them because they've got God's grace. God has graced them.
You know, to demand that
prosperity gospel has graced them.
It has to be the Democrats that are the bigger
gluttonous and pious
people that follow the rules, that follow the norms.
Yeah, just like they do.
That's going to snap eventually.
Just like they do scholastically at higher rates.
Because
they do so institutionally in politics.
You can't be in a democratic system where only one side follows the rules and follows the traditions.
Yeah, but what you gonna do about it?
Behaves like grown-ups.
You know.
Eventually that system crumbles. Hopefully that's not in the next 4 years. Anyway, I want to acknowledge the Vice President today. We taped the other interviews before the actual January 6th ceremony. I kind of didn't know how affected I was going to be by it emotionally. And so I wanted to pop back on and give you my instant reacts. We'll be back.
I get frustration and anger after it happened. after the dark day, November 5th, the worst day ever, November 5th, 2024. I get, all this, but it's like how, we're in January now. How are you not over it? How are these people all still pissed off? It's like, come on, get over it. But, there will be stuff here that was recorded thereabouts where it's like, I had not gotten over it yet. But still, there's so many sad people. I'm just on Blue Sky too much these days. There's just so many sad. Oh, we're sad. It's like, how can you ever be sad?
Here a bunch, all day, all the time, and tomorrow for another edition of the Bulwark Podcast. So stick around, subscribe to the...
Again, you're not going to want to hear this, but this is the fault of people. I don't know. People are so dumb. I'm loath to ever assume that they will reach the logical conclusion. People are so dumb. I'm loath to ever assume that they will reach the logical conclusion.
Sorry, Destiny. Sorry.
People are so dumb.
I have a new crush. Man gets new crush.
Assume that they will reach the logical conclusion.
Why can't I make the title appear again? Why can't I make the
No,
title?
people are so dumb.
There we go. I gotta replay it.
I'm loath to ever
eat your heart out, Destiny. But more on Destiny arc later.
Conclusion.
But yeah, he knows the score.
The big overarching theme is that this is an unserious country filled with unserious people.
Bingo.
And we will get into that over the course of the specific sound, but the extent to which these people are utterly unserious about government, America, themselves, their...
One might even call them rascals.
...lives, it was shocking to me. And I don't easily shock on this stuff with the people.
Well, let's
maybe
just,
I'm to blame.
So people can
maybe
understand this sort of, as you know,
I'm
this 2%.
I'm sometimes performatively unserious, so maybe I'm to blame.
I mean, RFK, depending on the state, was polling some places better.
I'm serious about whether I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I get super serious. It's just when have I last been wrong?
And others.
But yeah, I like
America.
I like
specific sound, but the extent to which these people are utterly unserious about government, America, themselves, their lives. It was shocking to me. And I don't easily shock on this stuff with the...
It's not an autopsy video, another election autopsy / rant video, but this it just must be said.
People.
It just must be said.
People. And we were unserious country filled with unserious people.
Yeah.
And we will get into that over the course of the specific sound.
I can't
the
wait.
extent to which these people are utterly unserious about government, America, themselves, their lives. It was shocking to me. And I don't easily shock on this stuff.
I've been lazy with.
Let's just.
I've been so lazy with time, but I got these snappy titles still, folks. I swear, just revisit the videos and you'll see there's snappy segment titles. It just have been lazy.
So people can understand this sort of, as you note, this 2%. I mean, RFK, depending on the state, was polling some places better than others.
Carnival Barker identifier turned Carnival Barker.
2% might be a little low, but I do think that...
to solve these things. I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to do it.
I was mocking RFK.
Vote for me, and everything.
I wasn't mocking.
And of course, that is a really, that whole thing is like a carnival barker.
I'm a vocal ableist. That's what I am.
Carnival barkers make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, as the most famous carnival barker of all time said...
But he can't even bark. He couldn't bark if he tried. That's the joke. He couldn't bark if he tried. Anything like a dog, convincingly. Mr., describer of carnival barkers. He couldn't. Man who couldn't bark, but nonetheless aligned with the barker. A bunch of peas in a bar. Yeah, that too. But yeah, I wasn't mocking Longwell at the end. I was mocking RFK. I hope you die of polio. I have a track. RFK dies of polio. I guess that was my subconscious talking. I hope you die of polio, but that's just a joke because there's a TOS. But oh, you epistemically adventurous fellow. There's just so many people who are they're all about just trying to be, audacious. Their anti-establishment rhetoric is just, look how epistemically audacious I am. I have epistemic agility. Oh, maybe epistemic agility is the rope that you're gonna self-hang with. Keep making excuses for these two. But anyway, I was mocking him not long well. Now back to my new BFF.
I think at some point they stopped becoming Democrats and they became liberals. They needed to stop doing those liberal policies. What liberal policies did Joe Biden pursue that she didn't like? Was it the CHIPS Act? Was the family child tax credit? Was that what she didn't like? This is, again, I understand what you say, or what you mean when you say that you got to figure out a way to win these people, because they all get a vote. God help us, they all get a vote. But there aren't rational answers to this. There are only communications answers or emotional answers. Because basically what you're doing is you're saying we've got to trick these unserious people into voting for us.
People who aren't reasons responsive, if we may put a philosophical term to it. They're not reasons responsive.
In the way that unserious people into voting, saying we've got to trick these unserious people into voting for us.
Say it ain't so.
In the way that they
them.
Say it ain't
Yeah,
so.
no, I think you do.
But
because these are not people who are going to make rational decisions.
My thoughts. Say it ain't so, but my thoughts exactly.
They're not people who are going to ever understand the world as it actually lives. We live in such a decadent, rich society. These people can float through life exactly this informed and be just fine. And I don't know what the answer to that is, but I believe that the political incentives it establishes
Bernie Sanders
are very bad.
has gang still salty over Bernie being screwed. That's how he assesses things. But yeah, no, you're right. You're my thoughts exactly.
And
what did you say?
These people aren't going to make rational decisions.
Yeah, they're not reasons responsive.
People who are going to ever understand the world as it actually lives. We live in such a decadent rich society. These
Bernie
people can float through life exactly this informed and be just fine. Yeah. And I don't know what the answer to that is, but I believe that the political incentives it establishes are very bad. And it is why when I look at what the future of the Democratic Party is, if the answer is that you have to start winning unserious people, then it means Democrats are probably going to figure out that they need to find themselves a demagogue. And that's not going to be great.
They should run Dwayne.
I really
who else but Dwayne?
disagree with this premise that you have about they have
Or
to have
whatever.
their own
Barack turns demagogic.
demagogue. I do think they need to have a much better communicator. I think communication skills are now at a much higher premium than they used to be.
Stupid.
And I think they have to have somebody that is both a very good communicator and communicates in a way that is engaging to people who are not interested in reading the journal or.
I guess even I said, Dems could go callous by recognizing that man was at ease callous. So Dems could, but will they? No, but Dems could go callous. But then also, you can't fix stupid.
Well, just don't tell me. Don't tell me you're. No, how about this? Don't tell me you're America first if you're going to let people in California. It's part of America. I know he's not great with maps, but it is. You want to talk about the Gulf of America? That's California. It's in America. And if you're going to be America first, go take care of California.
Yeah, but this is what Trump understands. When he talks about America first, he doesn't mean America first. He means the real America first. And the real, authentic American Volk. And his people mean that too.
Mic drop.
His
Volk first. Drop.
He doesn't mean America first.
Slow it down.
He means the real America first.
Down.
The real, authentic American Volk.
Man, he let that K slide. He let that K
and
land.
His people mean that too.
Love it.
His supporters and
just one more time.
The real, authentic, what Trump understands. when he talks about America first, he doesn't mean America first. He means the real America first. The real, authentic American Volk first.
And then, like, who they listen to. And so we went and got ourselves a bunch of Joe Rogan listeners. I don't know if you knew that when you watched this. Did you know that was the screen?
I did.
Okay.
I did because I was
it's going to be worse than any of us can imagine.
12 minutes in, and I messaged producer Connor, and I was like, "Who are these people? Like, what am I watching?" Dystopia. Listening to.
What did you say?
Well, first I'd just say I think that we are slouching towards dystopia.
Yeah.
Listening to what these people are consuming and how they're processing information.
Yeah.
This is the people's fault.
Is that when you look, the kind of thing that we're seeing now, this kind of cultural moment, it actually repeats after each of the great awakenings.
I'm still not fully sure. I guess we have never been fully woke, because his whole thesis is there have been this previous, awakenings. 1960s, I think he said 1920s or 30s. So there have been previous, the great awakenings. And so he tries to explain the present moment by kind of looking for patterns in the past. But I still don't get, maybe if he says we have never been fully woke, I guess that's the point of the title.
And it happens because even under ordinary times, the kind of people who work in the symbolic professions tend to be kind of funky compared to the rest of the public.
Yeah.
During these periods
what else explains that, there can be such a thing as queer theory? It's just funky people who think they're more interesting than they are. You're not queer, you're just funky.
Because we change a lot, even as the rest of the public is relatively, they don't change much.
So he says he is among them.
To the extent that they change, it's kind of continuing on the same trajectory they've been going on before the awakening. But we change a lot, and so the gap grows bigger. It also becomes more salient in people's minds. People notice the gap and they care about the gap more because we become more confrontational with trying to censor and mock and deride and shame and coerce anyone who disagrees with us during this period.
Right, he is of them, but he's criticizing them.
And so people notice the gap more and they care about it. But he says, deride and shame and coerce anyone who disagrees with us during this period.
Deride, shame, and coerce. So the elites, chiefly academics he has in mind. What did he say?
So
deride,
to censor and mock and deride and shame.
Censor and mock and deride and shame. Like a lot of that stuff, no one should ever try to censor, whatever, for example, Tradcons. But you're asking us to be dishonest when you expect us to have respect for Tradcons, right? I got respect for certain positions, fiscal conservatives, these hawks have staked out, especially these debt hawks. That's kind of fiscal conservatism, overlaps, and I can respect certain positions, this theoretical conservatism, conservatism in political philosophy. Yeah, we should change things incrementally is basically what, theoretical conservatism says. Conservatism as a theory of governance and, a theory of the public square, So I can respect many positions these other branches of conservatism have stood for. I can respect many of these positions. Incrementalism is the safe way. We ought to be risk averse. More important to avoid the dystopia than to, strive ever further into the prospect of a utopia. But, social conservatism, Tradcons, like just the older I get, it's the opposite. They say, who was the guy who said? Maybe it was Churchill. You're supposed to gain respect, intellectual respect for conservatism as you age. You're supposed to gain intellectual respect for conservatism. Like, the other ones are stagnant, but like social conservatism, I just continue. I'm amazed that I can possibly view social conservatism in an even lower light than I did just a couple of months ago. It just keeps dipping. It just keeps dipping. Don't tell me I can't ridicule it. So what? Was like Matt Groening in The Simpsons? Was that too much? Anyone who took the piss out of homophobes, was that too much along the way as well? Or is it just certain academics? There's academics to entertainment pipeline. At least based on some of the rumors. Seth MacFarlane knows a lot of academics. I'm sure he's influenced by them.
And so people notice
That's why the mouth-breathy Tradcons always hated family. They couldn't enjoy a perfectly voiced, mostly based, Adult Swim kind of show brilliantly. I'm talking more voice work than writing. Brilliantly voiced, but like stupid Americans always hated Family Guy. American conservatives always hated Family Guy.
Got more and they care about the gap more. and coerce.
But these guys kind of saying, maybe Seth MacFarlane should have thought twice before the Texas episode in 2005. Yeah, Seth MacFarlane should have thought twice before the Texas episode in 2005. They just took the piss out of Texas every which way from Sunday. I'm like, I loved it. And then whatever, they went to the South once before. They went to the South where barely anyone had, their full teeth. That was like when they first introduced Herbert into the show. Herbert's there for like 2 scenes, and I'm like, wow, this is one of the most hilarious characters I've ever seen in terms of the voice and the look mashup. But then for the rest of the episode, no, they gotta head south. But yeah, I forgot where. But yeah, he took the piss out of Southerners in that one too. But yeah, this guy's kind of judgy about it.
And so people notice the gap more and they care about the gap more.
Oh.
And that creates an opportunity.
Yeah, so no one should censor, but don't tell us not to ridicule stuff that we just continue to lose respect for. Don't tell us not to ridicule that.
Political entrepreneurs, usually associated with the right, to campaign against us, to basically say, look,
that's a risk I'm willing to take.
People like us under control.
Yeah, because I don't respect you lot either. For different reasons, I don't respect you lot either. You just create hurdles for certain types of people who learn differently than you all do. And for certain types of people who have too much self-respect to be little lapdogs for whatever a professor says. To have that next level, not just steady compliance like until the age of 10 or 15 or even 18, but, these university PhD getters, they exhibit steady compliance sometimes well into their 30s. Whatever the prof says, they jump through it. It's how high. They just go keep asking for higher jumps. Because I just gotta get my fucking PhD. Yeah, I don't respect you either. Let the stupid troglodytes come for you. Yeah, let the Trumpy troglodytes come for academia. I don't see enough good in it. Y'all assholes in academia, you guys still don't teach shop roundly. Here and there, usually just in European university. I don't think any American uni philosophy department teaches shop roundly. Fuck y'all. Let them come for you. Let them eat you. Let the trogs eat you.
It's like educational.
There's some good in the humanities, but I don't think there's enough good. Let the fucking Trumpy trogs eat you alive.
Institutions are indoctrinating your children instead of
Phlegmatic man said.
The media has become propaganda arms of the Democratic Party instead of telling you the truth. These kinds of narratives become a lot more popular after each of the Great Awakenings. Yeah. They're usually followed by right-aligned gains at the ballot box.
Good.
Because
I'm gonna start using Latinx, especially against the Hispanics. I just want to bring it on. I'm an academia-only accelerationist. I'm not an accelerationist on society-wide stuff, but academia, in terms of it imploding, yeah, I'm an accelerationist. Y'all assholes act like autodidacts don't exist.
People like us under control. Actually, each of the awakenings usually correlates with the creation of alternative knowledge economy infrastructures as well. To the extent that we seem biased or unreliable, this creates a market for other people to. So, for instance, after the Great Awakening of the 60s,
it's not my fault people believe the guy who said drink bleach. That's not my fault.
It became very popular to
I'm not going to be an academic groveler. Let the people who go on to drink bleach.
Lost cause. It's totally captured. You can't fix it. And so what did people do? Well, they launched a lot of right-aligned think tanks, the Kudos Institute, the Heritage Foundation, and so on, to allow people to
programmatic thinkers. They think they can't do anything other than go left or right.
The captured institutions.
Or stay stagnant.
In the late 80s, early 90s, there was perception that the media was totally captured. You can't fix it. It's too far gone. So they launched Fox News, for instance, and Fox News is eating everyone's lunch. And cable just, they totally dominate.
Yeah, as did Limbaugh. I have a theory on it. It's just a bunch of resentful, obese people.
And in the current moment, you see attempts by Peter Thiel to acquire.
I'd love to see, these channel viewership demos, but adjusted for obesity, and just wait and see how the Fox side stacks up.
Well, Elon Musk take over Twitter, Donald Trump to acquire Truth Social. This attempt to create alternative infrastructures of knowledge production is a thing that accompanies each of the awakenings as well, because we become less trustworthy. This is a problem in the long-term way for the mainstream symbolic capitalists in a long-term way. Because the way that a lot of these alternative institutions continue to get vote shares, continue to get audiences, continue to get money, and so on, is by perennially sowing mistrust in the mainstream institutions. So Fox News every day, all day, tell you that the mainstream media is lying to you, they don't respect you, they don't share your values, and so on. That's how they keep their viewers.
Well, it's true, you know, if there's going to be a single survivor of these big channels, you know, I'd like for them to stay in existence to the extent people watch of their own volition. But if there's going to be a single survivor, yeah, I root that it not be Fox. You know, I'm going to say it. I'd root for, if it comes down to CNN or Fox as the sole surviving channel, yeah, I root for CNN. So, yeah, I'm kind of saying breaks my heart, but maybe it does.
Sowing mistrust in mainstream media all day, every day. And so one of the things you see after the awakenings, so you see three things, basically. Right-wing gains at the ballot box, the creation of these alternative knowledge economy infrastructures, and usually durably reduced trust in mainstream institutions. And this is all a product.
Yeah, Volk knew that they spoke and weren't listened to.
ourselves during these periods of awakening. And but we usually don't think about it that way.
Volk steer your curse. That's an oldie but a goodie. Is Volk steer your curse?
Our narrative about why we're seeing this kind of reaction.
They've always steered I never had any kind of curses. Maybe existence itself would be fine and you know, passable and maybe even serene, were it not for the Volk.
It's very funny you bring this up because I agree entirely about the analysis.
You know, however flawed the Volk might be, academics must be worse.
I've been banging my spoon.
That's why this is, you know, this is just decidedly one-sided. Decidedly one-sided. You know, there's no one there to speak up on behalf of the academics who might agree or disagree, and then there's no one there to neg the Volk.
But
that's where I step in.
I've had two long-term homes professionally: National Review and the American Enterprise Institute, and AEI. You know, it's actually close to 100 years old, but it's totally fits the narrative that you're talking about, right? Because its creation comes basically.
He likes to neg. He likes to neg his ideological background. He likes to neg them.
The New Deal era, at the end of this first awakening kind of period. I mean, the long end, but and then it's reinvented in the 60s to be a counterweight to help.
I'll resume later. Oh, whatever. I don't know if it makes sense to be a worried neighbor. I don't know if my fellow countrymen are having a hissy fit over nothing. I just thought it was I like this part more than this part. Yeah, I like this part more than this part because you know what? The man is ill. That's just the truth. The man is ill.
Develop themselves fully, three-dimensionally, in a relationship with the world around them, rather than
but then the nation state is directionless and stagnates
from it. In other words, Romanticism was about a striving towards a completeness. It was about being at home in the world. The opposite.
I wonder if romantics and nativists would get along. Probably not. It doesn't sound like it.
This was alienation, feeling estranged, disconnected from the world. Hegel said that individuals are in a torn and shattered condition. Marx had a complicated...
The Volk aren't see, that's Hegel's problem. The Volk aren't, you know, left to their own devices. The Volk aren't in a torn and shattered condition. You know, Hegel just thought like everyone thinks, quote unquote, thinks at the same level he does. But even he doesn't think at the best possible level. You know, another bookish type. Insincere.
Relationship with this
man of institutions.
Yes. When he was young, he hated.
But then it's like, the Volk.
World. Hegel said that individuals are in a torn
there's so much untapped individualism in the Volk.
Marx had a complicated relationship with this idea. When he was young, he hated Hegel, accused him of mystification and obscurantism.
Okay, maybe Marx was okay once upon a time then.
Came back to him later, turned him upside down, and some say, as we'll get to, abandoned him, at least in part, later on.
Understanding alienation is crucial because it was
the stupid edifice.
Fundamental to Marx's development.
The idea that history has this directionality and we must abide, and philosophers should therefore become activists. It's just so stupid.
And to many ideas of the time, and since many critiques of the modern world.
So, what exactly is it? In his book on alienation, the philosopher Richard Schacht points to several...
It's just a matter of time before it's Buck apologetics, and Buck is entitled to work at a sawmill his whole life. It's just a matter of... It's coming up.
Definitions. According to one, alienation is avoidable discontent. Another is that it's a feeling which accompanies any behavior in which the person is compelled to act self-destructively. and another that alienation
Well, it's
points
just
to
baked
some
in.
relationship.
It's baked in because just the Volk are always going to outnumber. What is it? Volk will outlive us. Yeah, that track explains it. No, it's because Volk will outlive us. The wiser you are, the less you copulate.
For connection that once existed.
But the price is the world is the way it is because that means, right, you do the smart thing. Majority doesn't do the smart thing. Quite the opposite. It means Volk will outlive us. You're not going to fix it politically.
Natural, desirable, or good, and has been lost.
You have to approach the Volk. You have to, in the best case, if you approach the Volk gingerly, maybe Volk will listen and reconsider, but probably not. It doesn't matter how gingerly you approach them.
That comes up most.
But Marx had his whole other thing as like the core thing, and it having to do with like property. It ain't about property, dumbass.
Is estranged, hinting at something that is either no longer close that once was, or isn't close that should be. Things being
best argument,
separate when they should be connected, integral.
It comes up in several...
Even democracy, the democracy is better than all this crap, but even democracy is vulnerable because, what is it? The quote, the best argument against it is 5-minute conversation with the American voter.
Ways. First, money.
Yeah.
Money is
the thing that Marx thought was we can organize and be non-transactional, and so this won't be a necessity anymore. How's that looking?
For the real
we don't have to account. We'll just say we're post-Marxist now. We're post-Marxist, so we don't have to account for the aired predictions.
To relationships that are hidden underneath it. It disconnects us from them. It hides them. It hides the social reality. It becomes what he calls an alien medium instead of people being the mediators themselves. It separates us as a species. Money is, quote, man's estranged, alienating, and self-disposing species.
It's a super abstract way to do away with barter and to be post-barter.
It separates us as a species. Money is, quote,
the money stuff is the sort of thing the artsy student would say.
Alienating and self-disposing species nature.
It's not a profundity. It's what Hitch said, a pseudo-profundity. All this stuff is a pseudo-profundity. The money polemic, the anti-money polemic. It's like what the art major would say.
Is the alienated ability of mankind.
But labour is estranged and alienated too. What workers do all day is for someone else, on something for someone else. What they're doing is out of their...
Because they got nothing else. The truth is because they've got nothing else in the way of options. It's just the way of the world.
Controlled. They are estranged from it. Even their own bodies can become alien to them, as they're forced to sell their labor to stay alive.
People prostitute themselves to get into the U.S. and to work for nothing within the U.S. Because that's just how much more nothing they have outside it.
I like to think of it as a kind of zombified state on the factory line, doing something for no good reason yourself except to afford to stay alive. Marx says,
it's not no good reason. The employer needs it. The captain of industry always needed it. And that way they, muscled up the nation through their own success. The nation's economic success translates into military, increased funding and so on and so forth. So it wasn't for it was just not a reason you like. But, the machinery, there's a method to the madness of the state to economy machinery.
The object, the labor...
In capitalist societies, it's true.
Reproduces, confronts...
But hang on, what does he say? No good reason?
On the factory line. Doing something for no good reason yourself, except to afford to stay alive. Marx says, the object, the labor...
It's Ford, baby, it's Ford. Ford brings America to prominence on the global stage. So he's just, okay, so you didn't like it, but... the game they're playing is a different game.
He says confronts them as something alien, something independent, which stands over and against them. Kolakowski
writes, just sucks.
Alienation.
I agree, it sucks that Volk don't have more options. But if they just thought a little more wisely, they could have elected their way into such a system where, they all got UBI. But it's not UBI they want, so you can't help them. They really hate you. They hiss at UBI. And so it's like, well, what should the alternative be? Right, the state stamps down on all sorts of ideological threats so that it can assure a kind of monotonous regime that guarantees workplace democracy and that, you know, there's no such thing as private property, strictly speaking. Well, I don't think that's an improvement over anything.
Labour is expressed
but that's what he wanted.
The fact that the worker's own labour, as well as its products, have become alien to him.
They won't even bother unionizing. Majority of them, you know, they're okay with these, what is it called? Red dog states, you know, red dog. You know, people are okay with that.
Commodity, like any other. On top of that, the division of labour means workers don't even work on or understand the entire product line. They divide it into small, disconnected parts. Marx writes, not only is the specialised
it's their
work
own lack of incentive and collective initiative. You know, at least certainly in the first half of the U.S. 20th century and, you know, business versus labor, it was horrendous. It was horrendous. But absent that, nowadays, you know, for the most part, it's their own lack of incentive to gather and cooperate and collectively bargain and apply pressure. You know, because they're paid handsomely enough, most of the workforce, especially the upper half of the earners. You know, they don't see much point in unionizing because they're being paid handsomely enough, certainly in America. So what are you going to say about that? Should the bottom half rearrange everything, even though the top half is, by and large, too self-satisfied to even unionize? You know, satisfied with their own employer relations? Is the underclass justified in using violence, you know, to rearrange everything that top half earners don't want to see rearranged? Yeah, they'll say yes, because they're sore losers.
Among the different individuals, but the individual himself is divided up and transformed into the automatic motor of a detailed operation.
You know, it's not.
Thus realizing
it's not the proletariat and no. You really see how these economic issues come down on. Really, it's that top. It's that YIMBY versus NIMBY shit. You know, he didn't really think about NIMBY versus YIMBY shit. But there's a lot of kind of, you know, normative force and affect in the U.S. based on the NIMBY versus YIMBY shit. And, you know, that kind of comes down to these, certainly, bottom half versus, you know, underclass versus overclass divides.
The absurd fable of Menenius Agrippa, which presents...
Are you the 47%, you know? Are you the 47% that Romney mentioned and then got a lot of blowback? Just how much blowback should Romney have gotten? Are you the 47%? Makers versus takers. The makers and the takers. Is that what I said? Well, I got swept up in the moment. Romney deserved what was coming to him. I'm glad that leaked when he said it. Because, yeah, it's an oversimplification to make it all about the makers and the takers. This is my work, by the way. This is back when I was motivated to do serious visual aids for learning. And I was writing more blog posts. This is like 5-6 years ago. But yeah, truth distorting thoughts and mantras, lest I forget myself mid-rant when I'm swept up in the moment. Number 1, core framework spin, the makers and the takers. Yes, some people are just reckless and they take, but a lot of the takers, it's just, you know, it's just the elements and the circumstances beyond their control. So no, it's an oversimplification. Just as it is, you know, the other box of truth distorting thoughts and mantras, the haves and the have-nots. So you can't even blame me for going in and kind of being sympathetic to this in the moment, because I was going off against this crap, right? The stupid then and now guy. Yeah. But caused me to just remember this blog post where I just utilized so many nifty concentric circle kind of visual aids. What do they do here? Marxist teleology. Yeah, good color schemes too. I was motivated to do all of it. I did so much more that I never utilized. And then, like, I came up with all these at work, and then they nuked the desktop. I just came back from a weekend one day, and, like, my desktop was nuked. And that's where I stored so many of these other ones that I planned to action. So much great work lost. But yeah, this is, like, some of the ones that I did in that blog post. Yeah, heterodox identifiers of political divisions. Back when I didn't use idealism in the philosophical sense, I just used it in the kind of pie in the sky sense. So the pragmatism is the juxtaposition. Is political philosophy a societal reflection of moral philosophy, or ought it be a little more complicated? pragmatist understands. It ought to be a little more complicated. A lot of people think, nope, it ought to be a perfect reflection of it. And this is why we have so many problems. Is there any line connecting political philosophies to moral philosophies? Sure, says the pragmatist. But the line is mostly indirect. Idealist says it's direct. It's got to be direct. You got to be full of moral ire and be ready to politicize it. Let's see what else I got here. Well, maybe I'll use some of these during the audios later in this video when I'm ranting. You can just look at this instead of me reading it out now. But yeah, man, that was me. That was me years ago. I knew that the makers and the takers is an oversimplification. So Romney he got what's coming to him. I'm glad it leaked. But then these assholes are, it's every bit as much of it's even more of an oversimplification to do this haves versus have-nots, because it's the current year. I still hear the stupid thing. It's the story as old as time itself. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The poor get poor? Really? You really think? People really think that's still what's happening. It's always happened that way. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So it's just these days I got a little more impatience for this one. But yeah, you should read it all over. I just came up with so many brilliant learning aids visually. But no one cared.
But I can tell you one thing, you have to hold on to the tools that you have and make sure that they understand when they attack our country, when they attack our people, when they attack the jobs of the hardworking Canadians, you can't sit back and say, keep attacking.
Damn
you have
straight.
to hit back with every single tool we have in our toolbox, and that's the message to the premiers today. They may agree, they may disagree, but I can tell you one thing, there's nothing more important in our country in protecting jobs right across the country. Thank you.
I want to acknowledge our great group of premiers. I always say this is the greatest group of premiers I've ever seen.
He said somewhere here, he said,
country, from coast to coast
retaliatory,
to coast,
but retaliatory beyond tariffs.
All different political stripes, and also that we can hit back beyond the tariffs. And lastly, we need to hear from the federal government about considerations that we can hit back beyond the tariffs. And lastly, we need to hear
beyond our capacity. Let's hit the crazies beyond our capacity.
To workers and businesses through the tariffs that we receive.
Hit back.
It's absolutely
hit
critical.
Back, but he's
we
ill.
get it out to the people as quickly as possible.
It's going to be the itchy and scratchy bigger gun thing, but with U.S. and Canada.
Several months, I know all my colleagues in our federal government, elected officials I speak to, governor, Congress person, or senators. I'm not hearing that they support going after Canada.
Yeah, it's just one guy. It's just the whims.
Issue with China.
It's the whims of one guy.
Canada. And we just have to continue reaching out to our country.
Half the country goes along with the whims of one guy.
Parts and friends and business people down in the U.S. because it's not productive at all.
Yeah.
And I'm just so proud of everyone.
Maybe we can just give him Quebecois.
Well,
why not? Yeah.
Part of being Team Canada means recognizing.
Don't do the trade war with us, and we'll give you Quebecois for free.
Respecting each other's provinces and territories. I know everyone has different areas that they're very concerned
You get like
about.
most of where the maple syrup is you get for free.
We have to respect their concerns, but nothing is more important than the country.
Yeah,
country
just a bunch of nation states compete. That's what I told the Marxist guy. Oh, let everyone do their own things. Like, no, if everyone does their own thing, then like what of the nation states? The nation state is the basic unit of everything.
First, over the jurisdictions.
That's like population ethics. Population ethics takes like the individuals, like, oh, how are these individuals doing welfare? How is the welfare distributed? Like, no, we need to look at it as like population ethics, but for like just nation states instead of peoples.
It also means
personalities. I'm supposed to believe Canada has a personality.
There and working as a team, Team Canada.
Our personality is like
using
Tim Hortons instead of Starbucks. That's our personality.
Big tool in our toolbox. These negotiations.
America's personality is Starbucks, and we're the Tim Horton counterpart.
From a position of strength, with as much leverage as possible. Yes. You know, I've been in business for years, like a lot of people around this table. I've been in politics for years. You don't go into a meeting or negotiation showing the opposition.
Just in this video, just in this video is the 6th time he said it.
It doesn't work that way.
Is Trudy are they going to show Trudy? Yeah, Trudy. I do more stuff with Trudy. Like before Trudy resigned, I did a bunch of stuff with him, but that's coming up next video probably. Like before he resigned. Oh, I was begging him to resign before he resigned. And then he did it, so I don't hate Trudy quite as much, but yeah, Trudy still downplayed that public inquiry thing in his own party with the espionage stuff and the CPP. Yeah, Trudy, that never, you ain't got clean hands for a couple of years. So that espionage shit and the CPP.
Yes, understands our message.
But now
we are not the enemy. We're your closest ally, we're your closest friend. As I've always said, the AmCan fortress. We work together. We can be the strongest, richest, wealthiest, safest countries in the world if we stick together and we work together.
Point out how we're not for sale. They brainwashed you. The speech bubble saying they brainwashed you. Who's the victim? That's the victim. But the victim goes, really? Really? It doesn't seem like I've been brainwashed. I want America to be great. I want more Christianity in the public square. What could go wrong? And I got my proud American flag. Doesn't seem like I've been brainwashed. Maybe someone says they I wonder who said. Maybe if I observe more things about the person who's telling me I'm brainwashed, maybe then I don't have to think about these things if I just observe my accusers more. So let's observe who the speech bubble emanates from, who's saying they brainwash me. Let's observe it. Maybe then I'll get to think less about this stuff and go on the attack more. Yeah. So let's see who's saying I'm brainwashed. Oh, well, that person can't know a thing about the reality, clearly. Look at all this crap. Yeah, I'm not going to take it seriously. I'm not brainwashed. No, they're the ones who are brainwashed. Look at all this crap. Yeah, I'll double down on all my bullshit.
How very paltry and limited the normal human intellect is, and how little lucidity there is in the human consciousness, may be judged from the fact that, despite the ephemeral brevity of human life, the uncertainty of our existence, and the countless enigmas which press upon us from all sides, everyone does not continually and ceaselessly philosophize, but that only the rarest of exceptions do so. The rest live their lives away in this dream not very differently from the animals, from which they are, in the end, distinguished only by their ability to provide for a few years ahead. If they should ever feel any metaphysical need, it is taken care of from above, and in advance by the various religions, and these, whatever they may be like, suffice.
Told ya.
One might almost believe.
Told you you're
brainwashed.
Sorry.
Usually we arrive at a conclusion without having clearly thought about.
Yeah, I told you. It's not. You don't get off the hook because there's just a lot of crap. You're still. I'm sorry, bud. You're still. And you're also a flaggot. You're also a flag. I forgot to put that. Yeah, you're also a flaggot. But yeah, sorry, you're also brainwashed.
When the hills of Los Angeles are burning, palm trees are candles in the murder wind. So many lives are all the breeze, even the stars are ill at ease, and Los Angeles is burning. A blackbird reads the end of days.
has to wonder, is their relationship, their professional relationship on the rocks? I'd love to be a fly on the wall. We'll never know, though, because they're of that mold. Whereas if I were her, I'd be giving all kinds of, I'd be giving all kinds of rants about him and what he could have encouraged her to do that he didn't. Yeah, I'd be doing all. But she's too much of a team player for that. But what is this about? Oh God! It's the Islamist, not the former Islamist. It's still the secret Islamist who doesn't like either of them, but then who also thinks he can argue for this. There was nothing left-wing about Harris. Mehdi Hassan slams the media for blaming the left. So it's just so simple, but yet people will never put it this way. But this is how I'll put it. This is how you know all this is just bullshit. There's an institutional sense of the left plank. Every country, to the extent that it has multiple political parties, every country has an institutional left wing. So just definitionally, it is true to say. But even theoretically, it's true. But especially institutionally, by definition, it's true to say, yes, she was left wing. Theoretically, I think I heard O'Reilly argue that she's the most left wing candidate in history the DNC has run. It's like, no, that's an exaggeration. But that's the theoretical thing. So much cross-purpose talk here because no one can put it this way. No one can realize that there's two senses in which this is used and the right-wing stupid crap is used. In the institutional sense and the theoretic sense. The theoretic sense is the stuff that really needs to be abandoned because it just changes per eras. I've explained this in numerous videos. Institutionally, you want to keep calling it the left and right? Fine. As long as it's understood that it's an institutional reality, not some, whatever. Yeah, she's not Marx. You're right, Mendy. She's not a Marxist. Okay, you really got them there. She's not a Marxist, and she has a Glock. Yeah. Well, up next, I think it's Destiny. But yeah, fuck you, Mendy. Hate your guts. More on you to come.
Comment, but no, you're actually completely right. Actually, wait, can I bring that up?
He moved, I guess.
That's so stupid.
Setting up.
That's so stupid, but that is how everybody views it, and it's so not true.
But
conservatives make it sound like the natural, progression of politics in the United States. This is what that comment said.
I just have misgivings about him being so enthusiastic about correcting these misconceptions. I just don't understand how everyone who's been doing this, political commentary for more than 2 years tops, let's say, doesn't immediately sink into a place of lethargy because of the doggedness of certain things and just the low resolution. It's all low resolution for reasons beyond what he's going to read out here. It's all low resolution. The fact that this can still be a thing, that anyone still thinks in terms of these or some other ones, the compass tests. I guess this video will explain all of it, but it's kind of good starting point because he's just so enthusiastic, and I think that you just have to be the proper attitude in the faith when you're exposed to these kinds of things. The proper thing, the only naturally kind of virtuous thing is just lethargy. You just have to be lethargic in reference to it, but he's so enthusiastic to being in any way eager because it's all so stupid at the core.
The difference between how smart that comment was and how stupid that comment seemed is quite stark. Conservatives make it sound like this is your political axis right now, that the further left you go, they're communists, they're authoritarian communists. But when you go all the way to the right, it's like Trump, who's the most freest dude in the world. Donald Trump just wants there to be maximum freedom from everybody, or for everybody. So this is what the political paradigm really is. So if you're a centrist, you're here, and then the more right you go.
It's all loosely defined. It's all using loosely defined words as some of the most important words, right? You understand, the most important words can never be loosely defined, right? If they are, we got to come up with newer and improved most important words. All countries fail at this, but America especially so. I guess even I'm sounding enthusiastic about it now, but here is where that thing I said a while ago, people deserve my lethargy. Nowhere is it truer than here, but I guess even here I'm sounding a little engaged into it. But really, this is the only thing you need to do is just sound fucking lethargic. You need to signal your lethargy until people understand that you can't use loosely defined words. Just signal your lethargy. But he's not lethargic.
The more conservative you go, the more libertarian and free you become, and the more left you go, the more authoritarian you become. This is how conservatives sell the political compass in the United States. It's true. Yeah.
Because they don't think about it in terms of like how many rules does an individual have to follow. It's about rules, right? Now, some rules are justified, but nonetheless, it's a constraint on freedom to follow a rule. And they just can't. Like, the moment a rule is justified in their mind, like private property, it ceases to even be something that constrains freedom. But they're really gung-ho on freedom. And they're myopic enough to live their whole lives without really sitting down and really reflecting on this. Like, some constraints on freedom can be justified, but they don't stop counting as constraints on freedom, like a rule.
And in reality, yeah, where are we at right now? I wonder how you would even draw this. I feel like it would look more something like this or something, maybe?
No, stop. The truth is the world is too complex for anything like this to ever be done. Let's just have political parties because we have to, but let's also understand, because we need political parties to have an effective politics, it means politics is always a team sport. Right? And anything that's a team sport, all the vulgar are going to be drawn in far more than people who think independently. Politics is always going to be vulgar because it draws in the vulgar, because it has to be a team sport. You have to have factionalism. Even if you want to go in and push individualism through politics, you're signing up for factionalism. If you're really invested emotionally in winning or losing, why sign up for factionalism?
It wouldn't look like this. I don't think that the furthest left are like super libertarian, because we still want like taxes and shit like that.
It's the vulgar. It's all vulgar. Vulgar minds, vulgar feelings, rascals. The MAGA are just rascals, online rascals.
Like, probably something like this. Which statement resonates more with you? The best things in my life are those that I've built, or the best things in my life are those that I've lucked into? Definitely the former. I don't give a fuck about things you luck into.
No,
That's why I've never given a fuck about like ethnic background or genealogy or family heritage or any of that bullshit.
I mean, that's a nice thing to say. I've had to work for it. But, if you had to kind of have it deducted from you, right? Those things you earned or those things you lucked into, they'll just go poof, right? It really depends on just how much. Probably comes down to how much is the absence of either going to make you suffer and suffer unbearably, right? Now, if the things that I've lucked into, their absence makes me suffer unbearably, whereas the things that I've earned, their absence makes me suffer but not unbearably, then yeah, I probably should value the things I've lucked into. But are you going to think about it that way? No, you're going to think about it like you're some, 13th century knight, honorable knight.
Genealogy? That's for like family trees and stuff, right? Why the fuck would I care what my great-grandfather did? I don't care how many slaves he owned. I'm going to own slaves all on my own. Why don't you use connections to get unbanned off Twitch instead of making a deal every 6 months?
Well, anyway, I didn't think I'd do a 6.5 minute on this, God. But yeah, you guys got my point, right? I explained that right. Factionalism is bad. It crushes independent thought. Politics is a team sport. It's necessarily factionalist. Stop trying to find some inherent, here's a good, and then there's the bad. Here's me on the good side by a compass, and there's them with a bad side per the compass. Where's the compass? Oh, there's me somewhere here. That's the good side. I'm on the good side. There's 3 other bad sides. Oh, no, it's factionalist. It will always draw in the vulgar. It will always draw in the vulgar. And you're not going to win going at it alone. By its nature, politics precludes the individual from winning. It's just when the rascals posture as individualists, oh, God, nothing worse than that. And then, yeah, Destiny, you probably you're luckier than you know. How about that? Destiny, you're luckier than you'll ever know.
This is the people's fault.
He's arguing with no-namers on Discord about.
To be fair,
they're fired up.
I didn't care about J6 until Pisco argued it with me.
True. I mean,
they're mad and fired up.
Had like a 12-hour argument where Pisco's like, "Don't you think Donald Trump was in a derelict of duty?" And I was like, "I don't know. What was he even supposed to do?" We literally argued about this for days. Yeah, I didn't even care. So
and I respect that conversation. The conversation, and we should use January 6th tactically, but. I see even this conversation.
Nobody cares about it.
We're getting stuck in our ways. We just spent 25 minutes kind of theory crafting about other Jan 6 alternatives, right? And we're not focused on what we can change ourselves.
I agree.
That should be what we should be doing.
So here's just my one thing, and then I'll get your take on it. Bisco go. Okay, it's sociopathic.
Based in sociopathic.
I admit. Okay, so you get that out there. Okay. Yeah. I wish that it was easier to tie accountability to the decisions that people make. Like it, again, I know it's not sociopathic, but
wouldn't it be swell?
Like it hurts to see Republicans voting against things like FEMA aid and then being the largest recipients of it. It hurts to see people.
Yeah, see, that's what hurts. The song was wrong. The song went, "Love hurts." No. You're self-regarding, that hurts.
Republicans and alternative conservative media undermine things like FEMA, and then when a disaster happens, and 1 hour later, Biden is on the phone with every single Republican governor. What do you need? Tell me what you need. I'll come down. I'll call you. I'll send whatever. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is, saying to California, they don't need help for the wildfires. You know what? They didn't fucking approve my plans in Northern California. These guys, right? There has to be some way. How much do we hear about how horrible the federal spending is? How many Republicans turned down the COVID stimulus to shore up all their state budgets in the American Rescue Plan, right? There has to be a way to tie consequences
you get on
into
the horn and you say, "Dear glorious..."
Every single time, I want to shrink the government. What do you want to cut? Well, it's not Social Security. It's not the military stuff. It's not Medicare, Medicaid. No. What's left? Yeah. All the stuff they want to cut, they point to maybe like 5 or 10% of it, and the rest, like, no, we don't want to cut. But somehow it's mathematically feasible. Y'all's is mathematically unfeasible, but that's not what he's going on.
Leader Joseph Biden today, and you talk it up like Charlie Kirk does. You talk it up. You have some kind of infrastructure to get the message out, because
it's an infrastructure problem. Like you have to remember,
poorly structured party can't adapt to the digital sphere.
So long. Republicans have like a morning meeting where they all decide what they're going to talk about, and they're so coordinated in their messaging, and they do it across every platform, and they own every.
And then the twatter crowd is like just second tier pundit. The twatter crowd just goes into the same kind of pundit mode that Tucker, Kirk, the twatter crowd they eat from the well of bullshit
platform, and they do it,
and they barf it up at you if you go to Twitter. You got to read the barf.
AM radios,
epistemically maladjusted and malaligned barf.
They do it in the podcast that they run roughshod over Democrats on. They own YouTube, they own Rumble, they own Discord, like every.
Hey, they don't own nothing here.
Single platform. They're coordinated in their messaging, and they repeat this stuff over and over until it's seared into everybody's cerebral cortexes. How many times did we see the transgender inmates?
Because no one got it. No one heard my arguments. It's a tie. Men can become women, but not in the kind of core inner sense, but just, changing enough of the parts. Men can change enough of the parts, and so can women. So in at least one, Lucas sense, men can become women, but, it's a tie.
Commercial on TV in this election cycle. They poured like $500 million into that commercial so that everybody would see it.
So why did the Dems make it possible? Why did the Dems have to be so damn conciliatory? Even just rhetorically. There should have been outrage. There should have been outrage by Biden, by Nimrod and Coconut, when that whole thing took off with the male athletes doing the, born males doing the thing. If they made a lot of noise about it, people would have believed that, these people would get us on some of the core things. The trans thing attacks the MAGA brain. It attacks them at their essentia aeterna, at the species. The Dems are messing with the species by hosting this trans stuff. They're messing with the species. And forgetting that above all else, we must continue to strive. We can't stop. We can't stop and analyze. We must strive evermore.
That is the
matters of will predominate. men and women have to get on. There can't be confusion qua trans things. Men and women have to get on. It has to be really simple because it's fragile enough as it is, because men and women are clearly different and incompatible, most of them. But you know, there's romance. Oh, trans complicates our romance films and novels. No, it can't happen. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it heteronormative and simple, stupid. Go chase bones, man.
their strategy. They repeat this stuff over and over again. There's a
but
reason
yeah, they won't focus on that part.
Donald Trump's build the wall, make
because he's kind of he's a coomer. He's a sex-getting coomer. That's the truth. He's a sex-getting coomer, the first of his kind, as man-child.
Lock her up. Like all of
yeah, lock her up. Yeah, but watch the last video where I'm talking about MAGA as cognitive vermin. Here I'm being nice, but the last video, I flew off the handle because it's MAGA as cognitive vermin. But he's the sex-getting coomer.
Make America great again. Lock her up. Like all of this stuff is just the product, the brainchild of the product of repetition, and they do it really well, and that's why all of this stuff sticks. And like we have so much. The Democrat Al Franken has a joke where he said the Democrats' bumper sticker would end CNEX bumper sticker. Because we have so much that we throw at people, and we don't settle on one message.
True.
Yeah. Well. What do you got?
Media empire. Find a way. You guys. I mean, the Young Turks. Brian.
We must create our own stew. We must create our own stew. Hang on, what am I doing? Where did I go? Oh no! It's when they gave it to the rookie. It's when they gave it to the 5-month-old rookie. It was the undisputed one too. Massive cuts to immigrate. About damn time. About damn time. Exact no intro. No, don't watch this one. There's nothing in this one. This is just, this is just feeding the beast by watching this one, because CBC News is not going to mock him or even call him fraudster or felon. They might say felon. They certainly won't say rapist, but maybe none of us should call him a rapist because maybe we just don't know because it's too politically charged. But yeah, this one, man, they gave it to a 5-month-old rookie because he was just that roided up and huge. But, it was the undisputed title. SummerSlam 02, it was never the same after that. Main event scene got infused with rookie. Impressive as he was as an athlete, as a 25-year-old. But ew, such a rookie. And it's the undisputed title. Post-invasion. The big gold belt merch with the old WWF belt. It was the undisputed title. And they gave it to a 5-month-old rookie. Oh, but Paul Heyman was the manager. No, he didn't justify it. 2 years in, give it to him. 2 years in, WrestleMania 20, give it to him. But no, that was the time he decided to leave. That was the time he decided to leave. Kind of like 120 some odd million Americans decided to leave the Dems in the dust. Decided to leave the Dems in the dust.
Destiny. You guys
oh God, wish me luck. Tomorrow I go on Piers Morgan.
You guys
more stew. Double stew.
Our leaders are not doing the job they need to be. The Democratic leaders in charge right now are failing at their job. You need to break bread.
No one's going to call for, resignations. No one's going to call for resignations. But up until about 5 minutes ago, this was going to be a legacy. The Coconut Nimrod legacy. Time changes everything. But time's going to change this too. Watch.
Whoever it is that you're beefing with or whatever's going on, and find a way to win.
It's a permanent moment. It's a nuke stuns. GOP got the popular vote. It's a permanent moment. It's a nuke stuns. Kiss our ass forever. There's a constitution, and majority, even super majorities, don't get their way necessarily because there's a constitution. But we got the popular vote for the first time in 20 years, so kiss our ass. And kiss our ass forever.
Losing sucks. And we're losing that in terms of the info wars. I think that you guys are young.
Yeah, you guys are losing to the guys who wage a war on information and call it info wars.
Dynamic.
That's what's beating you guys. At least I have the excuse that I'm slightly outside the border, and I don't try to sway the Volk. I'm like anti-Volk, so that'd be the worst thing. Like to join you guys, like I drag you down so much more, and yet somehow I'm doing what's right in all this. You guys are doing your little ant-like parts, but at the end of the day, what's pure and more noble, I'm doing what's right. But I'm far more anti-Volk than any of y'all will allow yourselves to be. who's as anti-Volk as me? I guess there's like people who talk about Omnicide who might be more anti-Volk than me. I'm still against Omnicide.
Like you should gather together and we should start fighting on their ground, on their turf, and make some inroads.
And we should call it like InfoWars. I like that.
Someone should make
Just buy the brand. Wait, isn't it for sale now?
I think it's for sale. So, yeah.
I'll let you guys call it No Avail. I've trademarked No Avail. Apparently I've trademarked through these tags. I've trademarked No Avail. I'll let you guys have No Avail. But you got to host me once a week, and it's going to be about philosophy and kind of to get you to justify certain things. If we sum up all the possible joys and sorrows of each individual life, possible, right? Well, we're going to affirm the future. I think we're going to be prohibitively risk avoidant pertaining to the future. If we just sum up all the possible joys and sorrows or whatever, meaningless, trails versus meaningful trails, whatever, we sum up all the possible, variability. We have far more reason to disaffirm, but you guys want to win because you want to affirm stupid stuff.
I honestly think that there's
so you get to be called No Avail, your show, your new shtick, your new media empire. I'll give it to you for free. You got to host me once a week, and it's not going to be about any of this shit. It's going to be about the kind of shit that's coming up next. I think up next, I take a swing at consumerism. I'm going to go straight to that. I take a mighty swing at consumerism. This was, I think, about a month before the election. So I'm kind of, it might have been around shortly after the stupid Vance coach debate. Oh, and by the way, coach, Tim, double fuck you this time for being a loser.
And I think that it starts, like you guys said, with making sure our message...
Oh, I'm just too vicious. It's not their fault. They have to contend with a bunch of cognitive vermin. It's not their fault. But they sure do suck in their own ways.
Getting across and making sure that we're not constantly on fucking defense, because that sucks all the time.
It should have been the Jewish Shapiro guy, not Ben, the blue Shapiro guy. It should have been him. She got him on board. It would have taken Pennsylvania and probably a lot of the other stuff. They could have done it. She just chose coach. Midwestern vibes. Yeah, so much for your Midwestern vibes.
To be having to be brushing aside their narratives and debunking what they...
All this has nothing to do with the title of the video, by the way. What's going to come after that anti-consumerist rant is going to be stuff for the longest time I wanted to start this video out with. I'm going to do a kind of proper left-right war. I don't literally mean war as warfare. I'm just being a little, not innovative. I'm just being a little, I'm adding flavor to it. But yeah, towards a coherent, proper, intelligible, left-right conflict framework. I'm going to clarify, there's certain people who, there's through lines. We can say that. And there's two themes. But that's coming up after my anti-consumerist thing. Was I'm telling everyone, you folks got to learn sewing.
Joseph Biden today, and you talk it up like Charlie Kirk does. You talk it up. You have some kind of infrastructure to get the message out.
Infrastructure? It's an infrastructure problem. You have to remember that
shut up, you. No, infrastructure problem? What makes you so sure? What makes you so sure, Tyler? What makes you so sure it's an infrastructure problem? What if... I recently heard, I forgot where, but this is brilliant, so I have to repeat it now. I forgot where I heard it. What if, rather than this materialist route of the infrastructure problem, what if the dogs just don't want to eat the dog food? What if the mutts just don't want to eat the dog food? What then? If I had to bank on one of the two, I'd say it's more so that even if you had the ideal infrastructure, no, Volk sense non-Volk vibes. Volk sense non-Volk vibes. They sense it in you. They sense you're too metro. They wouldn't go for you, man. You're just too damn metro. Anyway, I was supposed to do the consumerist thing. Speaking of the consumerist thing, now here's how you can tell most political debate, most political talk is fallacious. It knows no country. This is what I'm about to apply. It knows no country. And especially political economic talk. This is how you can know it's fallacious, it's rotten to the core. Whatever, coverage, debate. Do you know how to sew? Have you ever heard that question in your life? In political discussions. Do you know how to sew? I'm not asking, do you know how to make spectacle of fabric? You know, that's what a kind of, the better you are at sewing, the closer you'll be to making spectacle of fabric. You know, whatever, crocheting, you know, there's these people who crochet. I had a colleague who wouldn't shut up about how crocheting makes him happier. Okay, so, you know, these people who know how to make spectacles of fabric, I'm not asking if you know how to do that. I'm just asking, have you heard the question? And perhaps, do you know how to sew? You know, it's about time someone's asked you that. Do you know how to sew? But then more importantly, for the political point, have you heard the question, do you know how to sew, asked in political or economic prudent advisories, debates? You know, advisory, this is a public advisory, we need to have the debate to inform the public. No, you never ask, do you know how to sew? Right? You know, suppose one of your pockets has been ripped. You just have to know how to sew that up. Do you know how many people buy new pairs of pants when something like this happens? They don't even go down the route of, maybe I should just learn to sew and sew up my little hole in my pocket and then not make excuses for buying new clothes excessively. People don't learn these skills, I think, in part because they just don't think about the possibility of learning how to sew and sewing up your pockets. But no, I think the ones who do think of that possibility, I just think they want these reasons to be profligate on their spending, specifically in reference to clothes. And I'm not even going to get into the fact that women do it more. You know, be profligate in terms of spending on clothes and shoes. But you know, I did this up until a certain point. I put up with pants where one of the pockets was ripped and it had a big enough hole, I couldn't put anything in it. Or, you know, if I put my phone in it, like a quarter of my phone would like be up against my quad and it would be cold, so I just didn't do it for that reason. I guess the phone fit, but like coins didn't fit. So you just learn how to sew. You don't need to learn how to crochet or whatever it's called, but you just need to learn how to sew, and then you buy less clothes, and then you're not in dire straits fiscally, and inflation doesn't affect you as much. But who's making that point? No, because they actually want you buying excess clothes. Because it's all a sham at the bottom. They're kind of trying to tiptoe between being in favor of people having more a safety net, but oftentimes what's going to get people to have more of a safety net personally, in terms of their personal finances, is spending less, which will hurt the economy in its own way. So it's a tiptoe for a lot of these commentators. As long as consumerism rules the roost, and we can't go back to that other thing, productivism, producerism, it's one of those two, where, you know, they try to have a hot economy without really putting that much emphasis on consumption, but somehow the production does enough, the producers do enough. That has even more limitations. But this consumerist crap, you know, it's like people are badly off because people spend too much and never ask themselves, do I know how to sew? Am I really that low IQ that I'm not even going to ask myself the question, can I learn how to sew so I can fill up my pockets and not have to buy pants excessively? Or, you know, in the case of women, just shoes, even if the shoes they have right now has nothing wrong with them, but they just need more shoes. Because it's about the quantity of shoes. Even if you have like 5 pairs of shoes, it's as if you just bought them. But no, you need more shoes because you're a woman, you're dame. Okay, I'm done. But yeah, to sum it up, consumerism, there's a great tension between consumerism and the vast majority of people having savings, or adequate enough savings, right? It's just kind of zero sum. There's a tension there. And I think there's a lot of people who are part of the commentariat who kind of know that. Maybe they don't know it overtly, but they have a sense of it, and they push it out of their mind because the current model, it's that, you know, it's not just capitalism. Capitalism just means private property, you know, fair play. You know, you get the inheritance constrained and, you know, controlled and taxed. Yeah, fair play. But you know, fair play on the private property element, but, you know, that plus a consumeristic model. But let's understand what a consumeristic model means. It means that if more and more people just come to resemble me and are averse to spending, and I would have been averse even if like so many great things weren't free, as it stands, so many of the most important things are free if you know how to make use of the internet. You know, not just for music. But yeah, I wouldn't have been a consumer to the level that's needed for this kind of economic model to be sustainable. I wouldn't have even been that type of a consumer had there been no internet and had I had to still get my music the old-fashioned way and get my shows the old-fashioned way, the television way. I haven't had a TV since 2008. Pretty much the moment I moved out, I ceased with the television. It's kind of an interesting side note. So many of the people who have drastically different politics than me in America insist that it's all about, being tricked by the television. It was like, I share none of the policy prescriptions you people do, and I've not had television probably for a lot longer than you have, and yet somehow, I can see that you're going wrong in all kinds of ways. Because I just see it on Twitter all the time. If you're not voting for Trump, you're being suckered by the TV. It's like, no, you guys just aren't looking deep enough. You guys are just reaching for the weak man or the straw man to utilize as a... Well, anyway, I don't want to derail too much on that. But yeah, I haven't, if I had not been the internet type, if I hadn't been born in the internet age, I still wouldn't be consuming at the rate necessary for all of this to kind of keep going. And so it's just interesting, there's these iron laws of economics, and we're told that it's the iron laws of economics that made it so that, capitalism persevered where the other systems failed. Whereas I'm sitting here thinking, it's just a matter of time, and it's all happenstance. Like, capitalism persevered because of purely accidental features. Right? Which is not to say that the other systems, the anti-capitalistic systems, failed because of accidental features. No, those failed because there was even more wrong with those economic models. But let's just understand, capitalism plus consumerism, or any other anti-capitalistic system that just relies on a lot of people being consumers, like, it's purely accidental that those people don't resemble me. You people should thank your lucky you people who don't want to change that much, you should thank your lucky stars that so many people don't resemble me. Because I just wouldn't buy all the crap that you think it's kind of built in to human nature to buy. It's not built into human nature to buy all this crap. It's not. And so yeah, capitalism is yet another kind of arbitrarily successful system, I have to say. And, I kind of want to see an economist make sense of that. An economist who believes in iron laws of economics. Like, is it really impossible for there to be a future where people are just really that much in their head to the point where external shiny objects they're not eager to obtain the external shiny objects qua consumption? Like, I really want to see an economist sit down and truly try to deal with that question. The hypothetical question where people are just not that impressed with all the so-called great things that society has to offer them qua consumption. What do you do then? Well, you can maybe keep the private property. You should keep the private property simply for moral reasons, especially non-inherited private property, actually earned private property. Yeah, keep all that. There's good reason to keep all that. But, then you're going to have to figure out a different scheme that doesn't rely on consumerism. You just haven't had to think that hard because there have been that many dull-witted people for whom, they'll consume. They'll consume enough, even if it means they have no savings. They have no savings for their children, not just for themselves. They have no savings. They have no safety net for their fucking children. But, they're keeping the economy afloat, so no one thinks about it that hard. But it's truly monstrous. It's fucking monstrous to think of people who, they live paycheck to paycheck, they have kids, and they do their part to contribute to the economy as consumers, but as a result, they send their kids to college. They send their kids to post-secondary, and the kids are juggling a bunch of schoolwork in tandem with working full-time so they can pay for those college bills and university bills, quote-unquote education. What did Irving Howe call it? The adult education industry that subsists on regulated culture anxiety. God, Irving Howe put it so well in that. But that's what it is. Make no mistake about it. That's what it is. And the truth is, a lot of those kids who would have been cramming, at least they wouldn't have had to cram while working a part-time or full-time job, if their parents just saved more for them and gave them that cushion for the tuition, but then, you know, the economy would have been hurt because there wouldn't have been enough consumption. So see, like all these questions, no one thinks far enough to actually connect the dots. No one thinks far enough to connect the dots. That's my challenge to economists. What the fuck do you do for your consumeristic economy when there's just enough? It's not because they don't have the money. When there's just that many people, they don't want to lose their savings, and they also have contempt for the idea that there's certain things they need to pay for to begin with, and pay that much for it to begin with. What do you do with that? You know, sometimes there's something I do want to buy, and I look at the price tag, and it's not that I can't afford it. I can afford it, but I still think it's too pricey, and just out of pure spite, I will not buy it. Even though it would have, you know, I could have afforded it, and it would have given me enough value, and it would have certainly given, you know, from that exchange value standpoint, yeah, it would have. The only thing that stops me from buying the shiny object is I just feel it's too pricey. And I'm not gonna let the seller get the better of me. I'm gonna signal my contempt for the seller by not buying the product, even though the product would have been worth my money. You understand what I'm saying here? What's the economic answer to people like me? I defy anyone to come up with it.
Value hidden behind the price tag. He says the object has a phantom-like objectivity. In his incredible and influential guide to Das Kapital, David Harvey writes, value is a social relation.
Read yourself,
you can't actually
stupid.
see, touch, or feel social relations directly, yet they have an objective presence.
Yeah, the people who read themselves stupid go on to contribute to the problem.
Is they objectively existed. The process
but that's why I'm tying it together. It's the dames and their clothes.
The value is something
dames
social,
and their clothes.
So
yeah,
how would you ever get to
I tie things together
price,
or something.
The correct price, something to judge what your offer, say, is made on. When you reject the price of something, you often say something like, I could have made it for less than that. What you're doing here is invoking a labor theory of value. It's a kind of hidden pattern. It connects me
I'm
to
not
the rest
saying
of society.
that.
Like Hegel before him, it
I'm
isn't
just
the thing
saying
in its particularity, in its singleness, the commodity, that particular toy, say.
Well, what exactly am I saying when I reject a price? I'm saying, how dare you? I don't know how I do it, but I'm saying, how dare you expect this much money for your crap?
Has an essential truth within it, but the relationships between things that really matter.
No. But yeah, dames buy too much clothes.
That's good. We don't ever want people hoarding sums of cash.
Yeah, good boy.
We don't ever want that. It's
well
like,
done.
It's the worst thing that you could ever have in an... well, actually, I don't know. Where's metal sword? Or metalloid sword? I always fucking say that.
And by the way, define what is too large a sum to hoard. When does hoarding become problematic? How large a sum does one have? 100 grand, you hoarding 100 grand in the bank? Does that worry you economically, Destiny? Not saying I am.
Would you ever want an environment?
I wish I could hoard 100 grand in the bank. There's stupid interest rates.
Where citizens are just hoarding money in banks?
No,
it just seems like the worst possible thing.
No, I care for growth.
Like you always want
jobs.
Spend also means invest, but these people are retards. Yeah, that's what I think. Milton's
doctrinaire views on a very soft social science. Destiny, you have doctrinaire views. You know, you've read your papers. You know, you encourage growth evermore. So good boy, good doggy. Problem is, you have doctrinaire views on the most soft of the soft scientists. How does that feel?
But if you find that original Milton Friedman quote, it probably meant that.
Okay, maybe psychology is softer.
It makes sense, but can you explain why? Because money sitting in a bank account is... I mean, theoretically, I guess the bank can make...
It's not going to be that much growth. It can't grow in the bank.
Banks are short on deposits
unless,
to loan
you invested in one of the schemes.
You want people to do stuff with their money. So they can either buy goods and services, meaning you're going out and you're spending in the economy, which does a whole bunch of things.
We need to track a bunch of crap.
Increases
it's
demand,
almost just designed to get you to worry about crap.
Suppliers, which helps employers.
Crap that's never good in a prolonged way, right? When has the economy ever been good before problems arose? So it's just destined to distract you, to get you worried about a bunch of facts and figures, and to kind of feel guilty if you save.
Employees.
And hoard.
They're working jobs, so that's good.
But, some people can hoard and it's significantly less than 100 grand. but it's still hoarding.
Or you can invest it in businesses. It gives people capital to have somebody's money and then go out and start a business so that they can also sell things and employ people and everything else. You want like money moving through an economy. Money
We'll send our kids. Listen, you're just a child at 18. We'll send our kids to post-secondary and force them to work a job or two while they're being super studious in post-secondary, and we'll make sense of it. And we won't feel bad for not setting aside enough money so that those kids don't have to work 2 jobs, or heaven forbid, do God knows what else, while they're being super studious and listening to the profs, so they can make a big enough salary and then contribute in their own way to growth by being consumers. Yeah, Destiny, you didn't think far enough ahead. You just thought, listen to what the paper said. But the paper didn't get into this whole other side of it.
Goes and sits in a bank is like, it's just not
Be studious,
good. I don't know. You just would never.
Spend a lot.
It's just not a good thing, I don't think.
Just worry about, are enough people doing enough things in the society I live in? We'll call it the economy. Are enough people doing a bunch of things? Is there enough growth? Yeah, just buy into it.
It's immoral. It takes.
You're just set up to worry, and you're just set up to be disappointed. It never stays hot. The doctrinaire ones, the Friedmans, like they say, we can't expect it to stay hot. It'll be boom and bust. So you know what? If it's expected to be boom and bust, I'm going to hoard. I'm going to try to hoard as much as humanly possible. Plus, I just resent the price tag often. I resent the audacity of he who expects me to pay what the price tag says. Am I economically problematic, Destiny?
Poor. Because
also, that's the idea. Remember how I said, it feels like people attach a lot of normativity to
last minute edition.
Economic and finance terms.
Yeah,
right?
I guess I attach normativity.
Because also, that's the idea. Remember how I said, it feels like people attach a lot of normativity to.
I have a very bad attitude about economics.
Economic and finance terms.
Because I see a bunch of people who are parents, who could have made their children's lives easier during their, the primacy of their youth. If they had just saved instead of having the kids do like juggling in, what's supposed to be the best years of their life. No, go be studious, but also work 2 jobs so you can pay your tuition. Yeah, that's why I'm bitter about economics. Economics says it's all okay.
Right.
Times of inflation. He said
it's more important for those people to spend than to give their children a cushion early in life. Well, fuck that. And fuck anyone who can't make the, connection where the trade-off is.
Have to act one else inevitable. If you refuse to play the inflation, thus making one, it takes.
It's not about those two. It's not about those 2 clowns. I'll deal with those 2 later. Now it's about you. But I think I'm done here.
You differentiate between healthy savings and money hoarding.
He's a fiscal blasphemer.
I don't know why anybody would ever have more than a couple $1,000s in a savings account.
You're every tightwad's nightmare.
They have to.
Destiny. Justifying recklessness for the sake of the economy.
There are so many highly liquid assets.
Not all of us are stupid enough to tolerate waiting till our mid-60s to retire.
Sell so quickly on the market now. I don't know why you never just have your money sitting in a savings account.
Understand, it's more important, for people to be prudential individually. Not all of us tolerate this idea that we're going to do this occupation crap, till our mid-60s. If not later, with the way things are going. But sounds like, that's okay for the sake of the economy. No, it's not that difficult. It's not.
The second reason it's immoral is it takes from the poor.
Especially if you're, I'm not even going to mention the pets thing, the children thing. It's just if you're a non-drinker, just the alcohol, the alcoholic beverages. Yeah, you shun those. There's tens of thousands of dollars accruing to you over, even less than a decade, maybe. Some of the heavy drinkers. Yeah, that shit costs a lot. You ditch the driving, you ditch the drinking. You ditch a lot of shit that makes the world run. It makes the world, oil makes the world run. Whatever, Coors, Bud Light, Bud Light, yeah. Bud Light for the sex getting coomer.
Poorest people cannot they do not have the ability to.
I'm not bailing out corporate America by becoming an anti-tightwad for the sake of the economy. You're an anti-tightwad for the sake of the economy. You suck, buddy. But I can't wait for our arc to develop. It's coming.
To buy inflation-proof asset.
Not in this video. I do have to move on. No. Human beings can have a cooperative society. This is possible. A non-competitive, just from A to Z, like the more left you go, it's just the more boxes you tick where you kind of want to do away with the competitive thing and just make it cooperative and democratic and Marxian maybe. you go really far. It's like yeah, well, that's coming up next. But gosh, this was supposed to open this video because this video's been a thing that I wanted to do back in the summer. This is from the summer. That's coming up next on No Avail. Oh, God. That Marxian thing is just kind of gnawing. Yeah. It just comes back gnawing. Yes, not only are we saying... Now, I'll spend a fair bit of time talking about how the left-right split is not analytically useful. It's not interesting. It's fuzzy. It's got no essence to it. God, Coleman Hughes hosted two guys that went into it at depth, and they just kept coming back to like, well, what is the essence that spans the decades if the words are to have meaning? It's been slippery for so long. So I've been spending a lot of time, I do it the most damage in what even is right. God. But now I'm doing this. This is just to say, God. Are there no distinct questions that kind of line up neatly here? I think there are. I think the question that I've seen kind of when answered lined up neatly in terms of like there's just two types of people. One answers one way, the other answers the other way, and it kind of correlates to what is, globally, let's say, the left and globally the right. There's a single question. Is a competitive society the only type of society where freedom is permitted? That is to say, the moment you're constraining freedom, you're necessarily constraining, of all the things you might be constraining, if you're constraining freedom in an important sense, that will be reflected because there will be less competitiveness in a society. Right? So the freer a society, the more, just based on certain things, just basics of human nature, the freer a society, the more societal competition there'll be. Human beings are naturally competitive, so left to their own devices, you should expect a kind of competitive economy. Right now it's capitalistic, but we're not going to hang on whether or not it's capitalistic. We're just going to pose this. Right? Do you believe that's true? The freer a society, the more competition we can expect to see. The more freedom is constrained of all the other things it might constrain. One thing that'll be noticeable is just the less ambition, maybe we can say, the less ambition for these real ends we're going to see in just the population that's been now subjugated. So I would say leftists would just roundly say, no. Human beings can have a cooperative society. This is possible. A non-competitive, just from A to Z, like the more left you go, it's just the more boxes you tick where you kind of want to do away with the competitive thing and just make it cooperative and democratic and Marxian maybe. you go really far. It's like that Marxian thing is just kind of gnawing. It just comes back gnawing. Like yes, not only are we saying that just through these emergent forces, we don't have to constrain freedom. Like Marx can usher in a more enlightened, non-competitive society and not do even a pinch to freedom. And then other ones will not go that far to include Marxism, but like it is predictive. Whereas people who are conventionally perceived as the right would say absolutely these two are joined at the hip. People will not just, left to their own devices, people will not just become less competitive. That's going to be pushed onto them by their government. At worst through coercive threats. But equally as important, there may be a second, or maybe as tied. I don't know, I can't think of the exceptions, but, bring it back to, would you rather be a brave fool or a wise coward? Maybe we'd have to give them a truth serum so they can say what's truly in their, in their soul, their innermost soul, but yeah, in the innermost soul, the very side that answers accurately, that you want to constrain competition, you're going to constrain human freedom. You just don't understand human freedom. You tell yourself constructive tales about human freedom. Ooh, constructive tales of human freedom. So that side gets it wrong, but, that's also the side whose men, kind of far more often get it, that it's better to be. If you can't be both, then you ought not be the brave fool. You ought to choose to be the wise coward. Lefties get that. I don't know what the lefty women think. Lefty women will probably kind of on some level resent that, actually. So, ew, yes. But like the lefty men, like nearly to the letter, they'll get that. Whereas I think if you gave the other side a truth serum, like they would answer. Some of them are potty trained enough to kind of say, yes, no, I shan't be brave fool if I get to be a wise coward. But like they're just they know it's why they would have voted. I think like even at the peak of the party's glory that way, because man, that GOP party of yore that now so many Trumpies are missing, or sorry, never Trumpies, but never say never. I bet right now there's many never Trumpists who's thinking, maybe he's not saying it, but he's thinking, never say never. But you know, that party of yore that's so glorified, it's like, why can't we have that back? It was parasitic. It tolerated so much. Ooh, my toast. It tolerated so much gynocentric parasitism, among other things. It was willing to conscript its men. It resisted all these, I would say even anti-misandric, legislation. So, I'm very split because these are two very important questions. Like, how stupid do you have to be to think that, like, you're going to usher in everything being collaborative and each person's going to go along with it volitionally? Like, you're going to get, really, truly, each person to go along with it volitionally. Just like, we don't need to put criminals in prisons because criminality is another one of the... They tell themselves constructive... Like, Nathan Robinson tells himself such constructive fairy tales about the root causes of criminality, just roundly. It ties into prison abolitionism, and it just ties into so many of these. We can have a collaborative joint, and we don't have to force anyone into it. Yay! Not even through, like, NGOs. We don't have to pressure anyone into it. Like, really? Not even through NGOs? You're going to have to do it through the state, I guarantee you. If you want to get enough people to go along and be collaborative, and, just not be landlords if they have additional property that they can just rent out because they're just wise enough to earn money and save money because, they don't need to. They don't need to have a wild period. And now what? Those people, I shouldn't be a landlord. I should just have this be common use? Like, fuck off. Because it's a competitive society. Because we have egos. Lefties, we have egos. I'll only use lefty and righty when I truly believe that everything lines up to the person. And I'm not excluding anyone. That's the only time I'll use left and right. I've just figured this out. So lefties who believe in a free, collaborative society that doesn't have any competition in anything that's important, like, yeah, you get it. You'd rather be, you'd rather lack balls but, have more insight, if it has to come to that. Whereas your opponents, I think to the person, you give them a truth serum. No, they can't. They shan't be ballless. They shan't be ballless. Whereas, like, you guys get it, that better limp than simp. It's the better limp than simp distinction. Lefties just round the clock get it. There's something there about gimp, but, the main one, the main takeaway from that one is better limp than simp. Others would simp because they have very cloudy individuality. It's very much in union with the species. Much more often, I'm sorry to say. But, they get it on the competitive front, but they don't get it on the, you should strive after insight. Maximize the insight. Don't maximize the size of your balls. The size of your balls shouldn't be the primary thing of worth in your life. And it's really just scummy to have kids at this point. But we know all these risks. When we have the data about all these objective risks, it's just downright scummy. It's not more than dubious, it's not impermissible, but it's dubious, but it's also scuzzy, because you lot know. You lot know what the risks are. The risks get a lot of press and can be, quantitatively to some extent at least told. And you're still urging people to have all these kids. You guys are scuzzy. But also just think about what it would mean if maybe it's something that has happened to you. There's these two big kind of persistent things, qua categories. It's culturally relevant, it's politically relevant, it's becoming omni-relevant. And yet you have, like, there's at least two fundamental questions where each side lines up wrong on one of the two. And there's just this neat overlap. These are the two. You know, fancy schmancy theories about free collaborative societies from like A to Z. You go further leftward. The ever leftward you go, you know, the more things will be collaborative, allegedly. Non-dictatorial, though. Non-despotic. No. It's going to be Draconian 2.0. Draconian 21st century man. Draconian 21st century man. If Nathan Robinson gets to come in and implement his, you know, prison abolitionism schemes. You know, let's just, you know, ignore that there's personality disorders that are highly heritable. Let's just ignore, you know, psychopathy. Ooh, psychopathy is constructed. But, you know, just think about it in your life. Maybe it's about these questions I've highlighted. Maybe it's some other pair of questions where how can I not be conflicted by left-right, even when I narrow it down to these two important questions where, like, I'm so rarely, if ever, pleasantly surprised. Like, that, you know, Nathan Robinson will just, like, have someone who, like, retweets him, and then I go into that someone's history, and it's like, oh, yeah, they understand it. You know, authoritarianism is necessary if you want to do away with, you know, the competitive drive of man. Or the competitive drive primarily of man. For reasons I've expounded on elsewhere. You can do it voluntarily. No. There's patterns, there's historical patterns. And it's important for you guys to fess to that. That's not the whole story about freedom, but that's, you know, kind of one of the politically more important stories. You know, let people be competitive. Don't get in their way. You know, they get an early advantage, especially if it's an early advantage that was not inherited. Ooh, more. Especially if it's an early advantage that was not inherited. Don't meddle with that. You know, go for substantive equal opportunity, but, you know, don't tell people they can't be landlords. Quit trying to bring about Marx. Quit fucking trying to bring about Marx. Or their cousin theories, you know, whatever the other stupid guy that was kind of against the Bolsheviks, but it was all kind of, you know, just convenient and incidental. What was the other guy? You know, Hitchens did a whole book on him. He was assassinated by Stalin. See, that's how little fucks I give. It's like, I can just post this and know that despite the fact that I forgot, you know, one of those outsider guys that could have very easily been, you know, lifetime Bolshevik. It's just a few, you know, papers were signed differently. But, you know, kind of the Mensheviks like him. And it's so stupid. The whole thing is stupid. You know, what is it? Maoist scares Vatnik. It's that whole fucking region. It's Maoist scares Vatnik, and they're both too fucking stupid to realize what's going on. They want to get rid of the competitive drive. And so, of course, it's going to end up with, you know, Maoist scares Vatnik. Oh, the stuff that Mao orchestrated and arranged, but he's not the mass murderer. He's a co-collaborator in mass murder. The mass murderers, if you believe in personal responsibility, the mass murderers are those people who literally threw people into the bonfire and such. You can't stop. You can't put the human drive to compete out, not voluntarily. So just admit it. And you other guys, you know, quit resisting just the pure empirical fact that, you know, better limp than simp. But it's like, how can I not be conflicted? So, like, think about a pair of questions where you might be similarly conflicted. And yeah, just, like, ask, next time you run into, like, a prison abolitionist, just ask them, like, what do you, like, you think personality disorders, which are highly heritable, figure into criminality 0%? Oh, they do? Then, you know, then what of prisons? You know, or just whatever, you know, just the people who, you know, just read the headlines about psychopaths. Psychopaths still get a lot of what they want. You know, even though we were told we have the omnipresent AI now, it's like psychopaths still carry out their crimes. It's not just Harvey. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff we don't see that kind of justifies why he has to keep tabs and just the insane double standards. There's a lot of stuff we don't see, but he pulls it up now.
Here's who hate you too. Now you like Destiny? Really?
I have not said anything about Destiny.
You know what actually looks like fantasizing about killing somebody?
This is amazing.
You know what looks like fantasizing about killing somebody?
Because he said the N-word on stream with his own face. Can somebody just... Like, it would just be so easy to just... It would solve all of our problems. Like, we would have socialism now at this point. Right? We would have socialism at this point. If someone just went out of their way and... It would be so easy.
This is what happens when you don't kill every single slave owner after slavery. They have children, and their children have children, and their children have children, and then their children have accidents that should have ended up on a sock, and it becomes destiny. That's what you get. That's what you get. When you don't murder every single slave owner, every single Ku Klux Klan member, and they have children, and those children have
children's
accidents that should have been aborted, you get destiny.
Sorry, I'm part of Ethan's research team, so every time I come across a new clip, he ordered me to send that to... I think it goes to somebody in the IDF, and then it gets routed through ELO.
Yeah, there's just so much that we don't see, because we're blessed by obscurity.
It would just be so easy.
But also...
It was solve all of our problems. Like, we would have socialism now at this point. Right? We would have socialism at this point.
I mean,
if someone just went out of the way and...
Who thinks if I asked him point blank, who are the planners, he'd have a list of the planners that he knows would do it better than whatever Khrushchev or something. Who actually thinks he would have a list of planners? Who thinks he's ever conceived of such a thing as something he needs to know as a proponent of the word, of the good word? So it's a good word, so that's all he thinks he needs to do is identify it as the good word, but then not ask any questions. Like, do we even have any would-be planners? Are there even any would-be planners? Like the people who want to be in the hot seat to plan an economy? Whatever, horizontally, even if that makes sense. No, they don't think that's their business to identify any such folks. Their business is to identify the good word and push for it. The terminology is prior to the contemplation, even over here. And maybe especially over here. The worst of the worst.
So to be clear, this has nothing to do with progressivism, it has to do with tankyism. Now, they start to bleed...
It's not an ism, Destiny. It's a good term, but it's not an ism.
Thin at the edges, I will admit, but the issue right now isn't progressives in Ethan's chats, it's tankies that hate the United States and hate Jews that have infested it from Hassan's community. That's the issue.
And also, Maoist scares Vatnik.
Ideally, people would compete less in situations where allocation of goods via competition is socially wasteful than in situations where allocation of goods via competition is socially beneficial. However, the numerous examples of excessive and unnecessary competition in everyday life make clear that people also frequently engage in socially wasteful competitions. A desire or norm to win may drive individuals to enter competitions, even if there is no actual need for competition, and everybody would be better off if nobody competes. At the same time, there is abundant evidence that people do care about collective efficiency and others' welfare. 11, suggesting that they may compete less in situations where competition is wasteful and welfare reducing.
Yeah, so nudges can work to stave it off, especially with certain individuals, right? So that's not ruled that out. I said it's wired, but it's different for some. That probably forms the views in a lot of cases. The people who just don't feel the penchant to outdo, even like the people they hate the most. You know, I understand not being competitive with folks you like, but folks you dislike, how are you not competitive with them? Especially when they're seemingly wanting to compete with you. How do you just shrug it off? But yeah, there's reason to believe that even though it's wired, you know, interventions and nudges and all that stuff can get a certain chunk of the population to be less competitive. So I didn't mean to be, you know, all or nothing, but I just think it's stupid if you think you can stamp it out without forcing people.
Welfare reducing.
You know, or just guilt-tripping them to a degree that's nauseating, but technically falling short of force, but still. Emotional blackmail. Yeah, I don't want to either force people who are competitive to be non-competitive and cooperative, nor I don't want to emotionally blackmail them into it. It's not, the competition's not that big a problem. What's a problem is people being unwilling to relinquish their priors. Yeah, maybe competition is a little responsible for that. But, you know, all the progs, you know, it's about the billionaires. They still don't get it. It's about the rent seekers, not necessarily the billionaires. But, you know, interventions can work.
Welfare reducing.
They can't work miracles, but they can make some people somewhat less competitive some of the time. And maybe that's called for. There's a lot in this paper that says competition can be socially wasteful. By which I'm sure they mean kind of economically counterproductive.
Welfare reducing.
And that.
At present, we know little about how people compete differently in situations where the allocation of goods via competition is socially beneficial or socially wasteful. Instances of beneficial and wasteful competition in society often differ not only in whether the allocation of goods via competition is beneficial or wasteful, but also in several other aspects.
It's a complex.
They may differ, among others, in terms of the population.
Nuanced, as they say.
Population, complexity of the competition structure,
Many
and knowledge
ways.
about...
There's many ways you can skin this cat. Yeah. So what is it titled? Hang on. Let me make sure I don't screw this up again.
About others' behavior.
No, why won't it?
Lab experiments can help in this regard to isolate the causal effect of the wastefulness of allocating goods via competition, keeping all other factors constant.
Yeah, we gotta,
in our experiment,
we gotta manipulate.
We let participants decide whether to enter a competition to win one of a limited
Double
number of
blind.
rewards. We vary whether participants make this choice in a condition where competing is socially beneficial, or in a condition where competing is socially wasteful. The incentivized lab experiment uses a simple competition model that has been used to study micro-level decisions to compete in interdependent promotions, income, status, and many other scarce goods. In some situations, allocating scarce goods via competition is socially beneficial. In other situations, competition is not necessary to allocate goods, and nevertheless engaging in competition creates inefficiencies and welfare loss.
But hang on, but then?
We find evidence of a social trap involved in this excess competition. People are considerably more likely to compete if they believe others compete, and their beliefs on others' competition are similar in situations where competing is socially wasteful and socially beneficial.
So it's a lot of monkey see, monkey do stuff.
Beneficial.
Or monkey sense, monkey do.
Beneficial. Interventions aimed at lowering beliefs on others' competition may be an effective method of lowering excess competition to prevent inefficiencies and welfare loss.
Manipulate the stupid people. But like, I get it. You know, if you sense, especially the people you dislike or hate, are competitive, then yeah, it's only natural.
Class to the very, very wealthy,
but definitionally speaking,
very small group of people actually get richer.
So the socialist policies that provide goods and services to Canadians, let's say, or denizens of other countries, by printing money, actually punish the poor brutally.
Oh, absolutely.
The socialist policies?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about.
What?
Well, if we can't agree on the most important words, let's ditch them and come up with new ones. But then no one signs up for the project.
In consequence of the inflation that they generate.
Yes, I mean, all the socialist policies
I'm
in
sure
practice.
both these fellas have heard the term social democracy. You know, it's more precise for what they're describing, but it doesn't matter.
Just redistribute from the working class to the super wealthy.
Also,
there's enough wiggle room. Why is there enough wiggle room? Because even you know, if it's the SEP, you can't argue with the SEP. I've referenced this before. You know, one of these composers of data, of economic data, canvas no fewer than 40 definitions of it. It's a term we got to get rid of, right? If there's no fewer than 40 definitions, back in 1924, exactly a century ago, you know, there are many mansions in the house of socialism. Well, then fuck it then. It's too vague to have any meaning. Too vague for meaning. But is that how Destiny's going to put it? No, he's just going to go off.
I love this. Has anybody seen this? Does anybody see what he just did there?
The socialist policies in practice redistribute from the working class to the super wealthy in practice. And I can prove that.
Does anybody see what he did there? Does anybody see what he's
I watched. He says, because he said super wealthy, you know, he's trying to cover his ass because it's super wealthy, ultra wealthy.
Going on here? Oh my God, it's so cute that they've done this. The messaging, because these guys have become so wealthy. Hassan does this all the time as well. It's no longer transferring from the poor to the rich or from the poor to the wealthy. It's from the poor to the ultra rich or from the poor to the ultra wealthy. The millionaires and the 1%
But the linguistic point is more important, Destiny.
Not your enemies. It's the billionaires that are your enemies, because these guys have all been so successful in their grift and they've all made so much money.
Bernie gets it. It's both the millionaires and the billionaires.
Into you that they live your lifestyle.
But no, Bernie. Hey, Bernie, you watching this? Bernie, say rent seeking. Hey, Bernie Sanders, say rent seeking.
They're closer.
Bernie Simps, say rent seeking.
A guy making, you know, a 7-figure income, his life is way closer to yours than it is to Jeff Bezos or anybody like that. Like, these are your people. They're working class just like you.
On second thought, it's not just Bernie bros, whatnot, who need to say rent seeking. Maybe do some kind of a Biggie Smalls in the mirror, ritualistic thing on the daily to have it sink in. Yeah, say rent seeking 3 times, looking in the mirror intensely, know what it is, since you care that much about the whole economic thing. I don't care as much, but since a lot of people care, you know, and this whole Luigi apologetics, it's like, yeah, he targeted a rent seeker. That's like the one little bit of measure of the defense for what he did is he targeted about as clear-cut a rent seeker as it gets. Insurance middleman bullshit. But then, you know, people do the composition fallacy, so it must be billionaires in general. It's like, no, you guys are wrong about that. So yeah, like, say rent-seeking a bunch of times, look at this graph, look in the mirror, make the epistemic magic happen, and then you'll actually target the right enemy or something approximating it more often. Entrepreneurs, well, you know, I don't know if we need as many entrepreneurs, but, you know, close enough. It's a graphic that gets it close enough. Instead of the stupid demagogic one-size-fits-all approach. But yeah, these three chaps need, well, especially him, right? And him. You know, you can kind of say that there's more ideological overlap, clearly, in this case. But yeah, these two need reminding. Better limp, that is to say, better slightly less wealthy, better limp than ideological monetary simp and just cover your ass simp. But yeah, better limp. Better to lose your entire freaking industry than to do what you two have been doing. Man, look at it go.
Accepting that it simply is.
Hooray.
But I think this is how it happens.
For last minute stuff.
I watched it happen and I thought, good God, that can't be what I think it was. And then he did it again and I thought, oh my days, it was. And
James.
I think this is how it
proper British sensibility. You know, they've got a better sensibility.
I can't remember what it was that Michael Rosen said
for
about
just,
fascism.
you know, psychopaths even. You know, there's a thin sensibility here to get where the psychopaths... the Brits typically get the psychopaths more often and shoo them away. And yeah, unfortunately censor them, but, you know, ideally just shoo them away.
So it doesn't come in jackboots. Always. I can't remember what it was that Michael Rosen said about fascism and carpet slippers.
They know they're Michael Rosen more often.
Jackboots. Always. It can come in carpet slippers. So you watch that moment and you know, before the broadcast...
Clowning on the callers who are saying it was a Roman salute and whatever else.
Before the speech is even over, you know that people will be queuing up to claim that it's entirely innocuous.
You know, Brits have a better threat detection Overton window. I don't know about their policies, but Brits have a better, and certainly James has a better threat detection Overton window compared to Yanks and even Canadians, apparently.
You will acknowledge the existence of the people who claim that it's entirely innocuous, which immediately dilutes what he has done. I don't know that there is academic research into this area, but it is a moment of, it seems to me, profound significance. The idea that, I mean, I haven't looked at all of the coverage yet, but it will be some people think or outrage sparked. I've seen one German newspaper.
But I really don't think 99.9% of these people, I think 99.9% of these people who are just, I don't know what's in their mind, but I really don't think they're exterminationists. The reason it's so bad is because it represents desire for exterminationism of the outgroups.
Report it directly.
I really don't think they want to exterminate them. They just want to mass deport them.
Explaining exactly what it is. I've seen
Which should still be opposed. It probably can't be done without internment camps.
We're doing exactly the same. I think even The Guardian has...
Internment camps. See, the Brits, they've got a sensibility that says internment camps should always be like last resort kind of shit. Like, without internment camps, we will all cease. But then, like, with Yanks, it's like, immigration's too out of control, illegal immigration's too out of control, and it's like, we'll be okay with internment camps.
Sort of couched its report in terms to other British newspapers expressing a belief that people hold that is what happened. And if you don't accept what happened, you end up building castles in the sky. So I've got 4 or 5 different things coming, and some people blaming it on autism, some people claiming that it is a Roman salute, with obviously not having ever heard of Benito Mussolini. Where do you think they got it from? The question, why doesn't it happen all the time then if it's innocuous? The question, will you do it at work tomorrow? What would happen if you did it in Germany?
I should probably say, quite often, when I'm getting into the weeds in my rants, I should throw in, and by the way, this is not autism, because I have to say it, because just way too many things get interpreted as autism. You know, autism just as like, if you care about shit that's ideal and it's non-practical, you know, even if it's counterproductive in terms of your practical good, but you still like opt for the theoretical ideal, like you're an autist. That's kind of the notion. It's like, well, I ain't no autist, I hope.
It might be interesting to hear from people in Germany about what you feel when you see somebody doing something that would.
It should be all kinds of stupid gestures should be legal, though.
Regardless of what his online friends are saying.
You know, even I'm tempted to kind of, you know, it's the worst possible timing, but I've had the thought, you know, just when they would put that duct tape all over their mouth and then just, you know, take it off. And it's like, now I'm ready to talk and I'm free to talk. It's like around, 2015, 2016. You know, Stefan Molyneux, a lot of them just came on. It was like black and white dramatic video. And then they just ripped that duct tape off their mouth. Well, I'm thinking of doing that too at some point, and then doing the Nazi salute, ironically, just to protest the fact that it should be illegal. You know, let the Nazis be Nazis. And by the way, to all you people who are trying to, like, it's really important to you to convince the Nazis to understand that they're Nazis. Just so you know, even if you're successful, it's like there's just a bunch of Nazis who are in denial about being Nazis, like especially in America. It's like, even if you're successful, the thing you think is going to happen next is not going to happen. They're not going to, therefore, like say you convince them, oh, okay, so I am a Nazi. Oh, God. They're not going to be mortified. They're going to keep it. Even if you're successful, if you show them that Nazism is more than, like, big government, because they're, like, that basic and stupid. And now they get it. Oh, okay, so I am a Nazi. Like, they're not going to drop it. They're not going to be mortified. They're going to keep it. So it's a stupid debate.
When you see someone doing something that would still be illegal in Germany, 03456060997, having a row with someone online, eventually someone will call the other person a Nazi. But Overton himself
having a row
stated that all bets were off.
I love you, Brits, rhetorically.
Donald Trump was elected to president.
I wish I could remember mid-thought to just having a row.
I don't know what
the stupid beef here. It's beef having beef.
It is this hour.
Well, having a row.
15 minutes because I've got a fascinating Godwin's law, not Overton. The Overton window is when the conversation about politics moves further to the right and begins to feel normal. Godwin's law is the one.
Or in other directions, bud.
The architect begins to feel normal. Godwin's law, not Overton. The Overton window is when the conversation about politics moves further to the right and begins to feel normal.
It's only when it changes in the ways that I'm not liking.
That he himself.
But if it goes in other directions that I like, and if it hadn't been in those directions before, then that's not Overton window. The Overton window is one-sided.
So
the one-sided Overton window. I mean, can you believe it?
Window is when the conversation about politics moves further to the right and begins to feel normal. Godwin's law is the one about the
Overton window is never about other directions.
The law said all bets are off with regard to Donald Trump. How do you?
He said he was going to do it. He said he was going to do it, and then he totally did it. It's 1,500. A whopping amount. He pardoned a whopping amount. What does Tim have to say?
It is sickening.
I concur.
Again, you're not going to want to hear this, but this is the fault people.
Trump's perspective, so what? He doesn't give a shit about the Republican Party, except that he owns it.
Anything else?
And from Elon's perspective, he strikes me as a guy whose motivations are almost entirely around two things.
Procreative. Left nut and right nut.
Oh, there is?
I don't think,
we still talking?
I don't think they say it.
We're still talking.
We don't know what he said. We don't know what he said, but hang on.
Around
natalism.
Two things.
Nutty natalism. He's a nutty natalist.
Motivations are
Elon as the nuttiest of the natalists.
around two things.
We don't know what it is.
Hey, Sarah, there's more
Pay,
stuff.
Oh, there is?
subscribe, or
Are
pay.
we still talking?
They want our,
we're still talking.
They want our money. Yeah, but you're.
But that's only for the.
I still have the crush. I still have the crush.
We're inside the Velvet
But
Rope.
they want our money.
The Bulwark Plus members.
Oh, they got to subscribe.
Yeah. Tell them to subscribe. Tell the
You should
people,
subscribe,
Sarah.
guys. Why wouldn't you subscribe? You get all
I'd rather watch me.
You get some extra me and JVL. You get some
but,
extra me and George
There's
Conway.
there's a lot of me over the years.
You
I
get-
can
you
watch
get
and rewatch
JVL's Triad.
and learn more. I learn from watching my old stuff. I forget stuff that I knew.
The best things.
When I watch my old stuff, I learn far more,
Authors.
and I just have a lot more laughs.
I read it at
You know,
least
or
once or
you know,
twice a week.
I can watch me, or I can
Yeah.
watch all the other, gajillions of hours of free content. That's more or less the same quality.
Go and subscribe.
But you guys are good.
We'd
You
love
guys
to
are
have you.
good. Yeah, I'd love.
me and Jay-
I'd love to, but I want to know what you said.
Whose motivations are almost
Maybe I will.
entirely...
Maybe I will subscribe for
Oh.
like a month just to show that I. It's the climate. I can appreciate the bulwark. That's the climate. Maybe I'll subscribe for a month. I won't watch anymore. I won't watch any more content than the free content. But just to support people who are trying. God bless them.
Round.
People
two
who are
things.
better than ABC.
Hey, Sarah, there's more show.
So
Oh, there
people
is?
who cleared a low bar.
Are we still talking? We have more
Yeah,
talking?
we're still talking.
And
The
who,
talking goes-
very often dislike, forget about the policies now, people who very often dislike the same people I do. They intensely dislike the same people I intensely dislike. So even I'm considering subscribing, even though, I hate pay pigs. But, sometimes you gotta support those who hate mutually with you. Those of the mutual haterists. I think I'm surprised by how often on the bulwark, they just know who to intensely hate. I like it. I really should have hustled to get this one out before the inauguration, all the pardons. But I did the opposite of hustling as I am wont to do. But look at all this stuff. I think just about everyone that's in my media orbit, my algorithmic media orbit, is really pissed off. And look at what I'm about to do. I'm about to release a video where I don't check the, the temperature of the room. I don't check which way the wind's blowing. I do the opposite. But maybe it wouldn't have been as bad if I had hustled for once and done this before the inauguration. Because look, everyone I know is just super, super angry. I'm not saying there's no reason to be angry. I'm just saying it's both sides. But there's leftovers to this where I get into the both sides thing more. There's like, at least an hour of this video that's had to be on the cutting room floor. Because that's how long this video ended up being. You think it's long now. Well, I had to cut out at least an hour I had to cut out. So in the future, I'm going to explain why both sides make sense. Even to this day, I'm going to explain why it makes sense to say both sides. But that's in the future. But now I'm just kind of beating myself up for not hustling. Because it's just a weird vibe now. The post-inauguration vibe. Between this, Canada tariffs talk went into high gear. Yeah, he came to play. Don came to play. Fraudster came to play, which you'd expect. But, he still seems very energetic. There was a lot of talk about, the energy is going to wane by now. Well, he still seems energetic enough. But I need a proper end to this video, and I'm going to tack on from the spring, like a balcony shot. I'm going to do from the past, so spring 2014, I'm going to do a kind of closer. I'm going to do a closer to this video. It's so weird. So weird to be on the 4th floor and to have no one higher than you, even though you're just on the 4th floor. Let's see a bit of that Alex Fraser overlooking it. But, 4th floor and yet no one's higher than you. 4th floor and no one's higher than you. Come on, contrast. Come on. You're ruining the bit. You're ruining the bit. No one's higher than you and you're on the 4th floor. It's the Nuns, by the way. See a bit of that. It's the Nuns. I don't know the song. I knew the song back last year when I did this last spring. Not 2014, obviously. I meant to say 2024. But yeah, this is the Nuns, and I wish I knew the track name, and I hope I don't get a copyright strike on it. But it's a very low-key band. I did a BR thing earlier for the intermission of this video. You all better appreciate that. I know I won't get the copyright strike on BR because they're on epitaph at that point. I'd love to play BR tracks from their Atlantic era, but I fear the copyright strike. But yeah, this was the Nuns.
Fourth floor, and yet no one's higher than you.
I better not.
Fourth floor and no.
I better not get a copyright strike on this. But also, I'm not 50-50 on left versus right, despite everything I say about, both sides and stuff. I'm not 50-50. At the end of the day, if we're going to avoid more of this, authoritarianism or not, if we're going to avoid this hellscape, where even my fourth floor is going to be hellscape zone, I don't want my fourth floor to be hellscape zone. So if we're going to avoid it, it's going to have to be through the institutional left. Because the institutional right just thinks it's whatever it is. Too many of them thinks man-made. No, they think it's the opposite of man-made. They think it's natural law. Well, they got to gravel to their natural law. So yeah, at the end of the day, I got to pick my poison. I'll pick the stupid left pill. I'll gobble down the stupid left pill for climate change more than any other reason. Because holy fucking hell, how is anyone still not convinced? So that's kind of my tie break at the tail end of the video. But if I just gone with any other graphic, see, I held my phone vertically instead of horizontally in the spring of 2024. And I'm like, what graphic do I want? I don't want this to be black. So let's use one of the Los Angeles is burning graphics. But then I'm like, yeah, let's also use that to point out that at the end of the day, you got to pick your poison. You got to do the Sophie's choice thing. Yeah, I'll gobble the left pill. Just because I don't want Los Angeles is burning to be Quitlam is burning.
Venue. Come on, contrast. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
You're ruining the bit.
Yeah, bit's ruined.
They own YouTube, they own Rumble, they own Discord, like every.
Hey, they don't own nothing here.